Angels whip their wings in flame. Lost to the void, none remain. Fire rains, the battle calls. Demons dance as heaven falls. Choirs wail the damning night. Infernal's wrath, eternal night. Echoes fade, the war is done. A blood-red sky, a blood. Flames rise, the sky ablaze. Shadows writhe in hell's dark maze. Swords clash, the echoes scream. Blood-soaked ground, a devil's dream. Fire rains, the battle calls. Demons dance as heaven falls. Choirs wail the damning night. Infernal's wrath, eternal night. Steel bites, the heavens quake.
Sup, fuckers? Sup, fuckers? Hello, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday today, August 12th. Oh, that's loud. August 12th. Oh, 2025 is a beautiful, beautiful hot day today. It's hot down here in Georgia. Sup, everybody? Hope we're all doing well today. Oh. I'll allow that. Sup, fucker? You got auto modded. How sad. Don't worry. I'm a loose mod. I don't like to play by the rules. I hope everyone's having a great day today. It is a beautiful day. The world is on fire outside. Everywhere I look, there are more people that are out trying to kill me. In exciting news, apparently there's a Alien Earth series. I think it's going to be like a nature documentary series, but it's about the alien horror series. So I'm excited about that. I haven't heard about it until today, and apparently it comes out tonight. So hell yeah. Hope you like Alien. Um, yeah, the world's on fire. Um, every day more and more things are happening that are not fun. Of course, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. But I figured today we could talk about some specific stuff. Before we get to that, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. Hello, hello, welcome in. I love you. I appreciate you stopping in. I am excited to say next Monday I'm going to be doing a stream. Or next Monday I'm going to be doing a cheese class. Going to be starting a book club, but specifically for One Piece, reading One Piece every week. I'm going to be doing a book club that starts with a cheese class, and then I'll be doing a One Piece book club after that. So I'll be doing cheese classes on Twitch starting on Monday, but looking forward to that, and then I'll be posting it on YouTube. Maybe I'll be posting it on YouTube. Apparently YouTube, I'm only just hearing about this. But apparently YouTube now is going to start requiring government IDs as a potential like proof of age due to, in their words, protection for children. They're demanding that people verify their age. Now, if you have an account that's been around for a while, been around for a long time, it might be easy enough to prove that you're 18. I'm not entirely sure how the details work out. But one of the solutions that they have for, let's say, the AI system that they use to judge based off your photo and your account that you have, if the AI decides that you're not 18 years old, one of the only methods to argue against that is to upload your official government ID into YouTube and let them have a copy of that. So that's a really exciting thing that might be happening. I think starting potentially tomorrow or on the 15th. I'll find that out at some point today. But that's horrifying. I think we're all pretty used to the idea of having like our debit or credit cards in with companies online. But the idea of actually like uploading your government ID to be able to get onto to be able to access their content. It especially YouTube owned by Google, it as Palantir is building its online database and social score of every person in the country. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of these Chrome domes. I don't trust these tin bots, these robot heads. I'm a carpenter by trade. I'm a cheesemonger. I don't like the idea of AI and robots having this much power over over our everyday life. So that's horrifying. And if that happens, I don't know what I'll be doing as far as YouTube, because right now I've started uploading a lot of my videos onto YouTube from my Twitch stuff. I say a lot of. I've done, I think, 5 videos, 3 of which were just the full VODs. But very excited to hopefully continue that. But if YouTube is going to start requiring some bullshit like this, then I might have to reconsider, because that's a little bit too overlord for me. I'm not a big fan of that. In other exciting news, outside of that, I mentioned it a little bit yesterday about Trump has sent the National Guard into Washington D.C. I think that there's plenty of reasons for this. I think the biggest reason or purpose behind it is a show of force, or rather a at the very least normalization of the of powers like the National Guard going into cities. We have already heard Trump say in his first comments announcing that he was going to be doing this, as well as, I think his words were, unshackling the unshackling the police, allowing them to properly defend themselves for the first time. In this conversation, he also brought up there it is. Let's turn that. In this conversation, he also brought up specifically cities that were next on his hit list. He's specifically saying that crime is the reason that he's going to be sending people in, or rather sending in the National Guard into DC because crime is completely out of control. Immediately after he says that that's the cause for why he's sending in the National Guard, there was an FBI report that completely renounced his numbers and completely completely discounted every piece of anecdotal evidence that he had to offer, with actual statistics and numbers that said that specifically in DC, violent crime was down, I think, 30%. I want to say sexual assault crimes were down 50%. I believe it was also the only exception to crime being down in the area was that there was an increase in arson, an increase of it went from 3 arsons one year to the next year there were 4 arsons. So that's the only that's the only case of, from what I've been able to find, crime going up in DC. You know, to be fair, they've had a 33% increase in arsons in specifically that city. However, that's not change the fact that citing the fact that crime is happening everywhere when it simply isn't is not a great reason to send in the National Guard. Now, if you're just trying to see what you can get away with, because, you know, DC is not a state. They don't have the same rights as other states. They don't have the same protections that other states have. They're a little bit more under the thumb. So it's a perfect ground for you to be able to send in the National Guard as a tool to normalize seeing the National Guard in cities. You know, every time that they take these steps towards something, it's in the effort of normalization of that thing. You know, we look at the I almost said early days of dehumanization of immigrants, but it's by no means the early days. You look at not too long ago when Trump was saying that the immigrants were eating the cats and dogs. Like, that's a very old talking point that comes from a lot of xenophobic places. I always grew up hearing that about people in China, and they ate dogs for every single meal. And yet we learned through what was it, the Red Note app, that basically every piece of propaganda about China that we've ever been fed has been completely false. So that's exciting. Oh, I think the Roomba's about to go. I got scared by the surprise noise. So much activity in this household. Ozzy's currently laying down. He had a long morning, but it was very hot this morning. He was not too happy about the fact that he had to put on his boots to go outside for his walk. That's gonna be pretty loud. We're gonna put the Roomba away. Now, what's exciting is that it's not supposed to be running until 3, so I don't know what that means, but I'm sure everything will be fine. What could possibly go wrong? But so you have this dehumanization campaign against the immigrants, and you have examples of that, like Trump saying that the immigrants in apartments in what was it Ohio, are eating the cats and dogs. That immediately was taken. I was at the time was working with with a pretty old guy. He immediately turned that into the funniest joke he had ever heard. Running around our place of work yelling, "They're eating the cats and dogs! They're eating the cats and dogs!" Ha, very funny, absolutely ridiculous, right? Except for every time you make that joke, you're changing the purpose behind you're changing the purpose, and you're changing the intent behind where that comes from in a way that's not beneficial to anybody that you're trying to defend. The only thing that you're accomplishing is the continued normalization of it, because it's it becomes a horrifying depiction of something, becomes a cartoonish depiction, and from there becomes something that is no longer something that we need to be afraid of, but rather something that's just a part of everyday life already. We see the National Guard moving into Washington, D.C., and we see it go smoothly there, and we see it work in the eyes of the Trump administration. From their perspective, if it goes well, then why wouldn't they go on to do it in every other place that Trump listed after he was talking about this, such as New York, Chicago. He mentioned that they've already sent them into LA. But every time that they send the National Guard, or every time they send agents, or every time they send any kind of personnel into these areas and into specifically places that they are meant to antagonize and meant to not de-escalate but escalate, all that's going to end up leading to is some sort of escalation that they can then use to justify their own violence. They send in the National Guard, and what's okay, great, it's only a matter of time before some protester gets treated the wrong way, somebody else gets involved, a fight breaks out. Now all of a sudden it's justified for sending them in the first place because there's terrible violence taking place. Look what they done to the National Guard. Again, every time they send people into these places is another opportunity for bad things to happen and for further escalations to happen. Especially when you have a police force that are already there who are intentionally trying to escalate these things as well. He's talking at the same time of sending in the National Guard into these cities. He's talking at the same time about unshackling and unrestraining the police forces of these places, because they've been holding back for so long. They've really been disrespected. Like, what? This is coming from the person that he's happy to say that they were that protesters in the far right, the far left, are spitting on the cops, and they need to be beaten down and put down because of that. While in the same calendar year, pardons every single person that was at January 6th who was spitting on all of the cops that were there. You have a person in his Department of Justice that was there at January 6th that was saying, kill them, screaming to kill the cops. And yet you expect me to care, or you expect me to believe that you care about the police being treated decently? No, you care about having your violent force of nature that you can unleash upon the American citizens because you don't like what they say. Same trick, different day. It's the same playbook. They put themselves in situations in which they harm others, and then as soon as somebody responds in any kind of way, or anybody tries to hold them accountable or call them out for doing anything along those lines, they immediately play victim. They cry bully every step of the way. We are constantly heard that the left is the blue-haired maniacal SJWs that can't handle a joke or can't handle any kind of punch thrown at them, or are absolute hysterical babies when it comes to anything. And yet, like, anytime I've had a conversation with a conservative, if I even like question their morals, or I get them caught in any kind of like any kind of moral quandary, they immediately shut down and disregard the situation and need to leave the room to find a safe space. Like, it can if you have an ever-shifting worldview, then if somebody calls you out on any of your morals that you have, then it's I would say probably pretty likely that you're going to be defensive about your stance on those morals or where they come from. If you don't have a well-founded belief for those morals, or well-founded definitions for the things that you believe in, then you're kind of just swimming with a upriver without a paddle, right? I can't imagine that working out well for you in any real capacity. Now, if you operate off of hate and you're happy to live in your bubble, the number of times I've heard people say like, "Oh, well, I don't care because it doesn't affect me, or I don't really have to see it," like that's not great. We currently have or rather even seeing it and being disgusted by it. I have so many instances of being in a car with somebody, and while driving in the car, we see somebody houseless on the side of the road, or look like they've been sleeping outside, and as we drive by, they just have some kind of look of disgust on their face, or somebody that's panhandling and asking for money. Of course, you lock your windows as you get up closer to them. It's all very nasty, and again, a big part of this dehumanization campaign. The homeless have been used as a long time as a threat against what happens if you don't play by the rules that you need to, if you don't maintain a job. This is what could happen to you. I was driving downtown in Atlanta at some point ago, and you get to those streets where the houseless population have completely taken it over, and anybody that I've ever been with that's of a more conservative mindset when driving past that place responds to some extent with disgust, or with some kind of fear of because they are this way, they are naturally bad or naturally inhumane, when in fact these are the most marginalized and the most victimized members of society. But we've been doing this for so long now. Anytime a conservative talks about San Francisco, the first thing that they bring up is the homeless population, and the fact that, in their words, it's a cesspool, and it's crime-ridden, and it's bedlam, because they exist and that they're there. And it's like, okay, well, there's the only other solution. They have another solution. They have a solution they're working on. This dehumanization campaign only ends in one way. You have it against the immigrants, in which they pick out 4 Venezuelans that have guns and say they're Tren de Aragua, and that therefore we have to mass exodus every undocumented person in the country. And of course, it's not going to stop with undocumented people in the country. It's going to go much beyond that. But even with that, now you have it with homeless people as well. You have an executive order that's calling for the internment of homeless people. If you're homeless on the streets, then you're taken to a facility to live full time, in which you're not allowed to leave the facility. If you leave the facility to go be homeless elsewhere, then you're arrested. It's really easy to not have to worry about the slave labor that you're losing in prisons from the undocumented that you would normally arrest. It's really easy to replace that slave labor you're losing with the homeless people that you're going to arrest for not going to your concentration camp. And if they go to your concentration camp, then great. It's a work program there anyway. That works out great for you and your plan. They can work for pennies on the dollar. You can exploit them to the best of your ability, considering most of them come out of being houseless or homeless with some kind of problem, whether that be addiction, whether that be PTSD, whether that be abuse of some kind. And the trauma that goes into it is the same that you see with the prison system. You can, if you go into the prison system as a quote unquote normal person, then you won't be coming out of the prison system as a quote unquote normal person. Like the systems of abuse that are in place in these pressure cookers are specifically there to break people down. It's the same way that the military trains new recruits. The abuse that you get in basic is meant to physically break you down, mentally break you down, so that you're more pliable, you're more susceptible to commands. In the same way you see in the same behavior in cults. But because it's the military, it's a good thing. I've been rambling for a while. I've just been free balling. No particular direction. At some point, I'll pull up the video that I have about the National Guard going in, but I really wonder what would happen in a place like Chicago that consistently pushes people out of cities. Like Chicago has a decent history of pushing people police out of downtown. By your czar's move to take over DC. Oh yeah, no. I don't think anybody's surprised he's already sent in the National Guard to the Los Angeles quote unquote riots. They were protests that took up a very small area. Like in the massive LA, the protests took up, I want to say it was like something like 8 city blocks, but it was less than 1% of the actual like land of the city, and yet every piece of coverage for it, made it seem like the entire city was burning down. But no, I think it's completely reasonable to expect him to do these things, to send in the National Guard to DC. Like, I think the next steps are sending them into as many other places as they can. Chicago, Los Angeles, probably again. They'll probably send them into New York at some point, as well as they'll probably start sending in more deputized ICE agents accompany them as the DOJ gets more and more intertwined. They'll intermingle their ranks more and more. They'll become less and less identifiable from each other. Hopefully that won't happen if uniforms are maintained, but who knows what's going to happen with the ICE agents that they have. I'm sure Trump will come out with a gay costume design in a couple weeks from now that'll match the pageantry that was Space Force. He loves his opportunity for a parade, loves his opportunity for a little bit of showmanship. I was like the new I was joking yesterday about the new concentration camp that they're building, I think in Indiana. Yeah, that they're calling the Speedway Slammer. And I said that sounds like a hit Broadway show that Trump himself came up with. He's such a queer guy, If he's wasted on politics, If he had been alongside RuPaul on Drag Race, it would have been a very different timeline. But the next steps, I think, is just continued escalation as far as they can, because one option is that they continue their escalation. They're able to get away with more and more stuff, more and more violence against people, more and more violence against protesters. They're able to continue and normalize these efforts, and then once if they get to a point to where it's so normalized that they can just institute martial law without any fight. If that doesn't happen, then the alternative would be some kind of, again, pressure cooker situation in which somebody responds in a negative fashion to being oppressed by a military force in a free country. People tend to get cranky when they see their democratic rights being taken from them. And so, like, if somebody escalates the situation on the side of the left, God forbid, let's say again they love the blue-haired SJW. Let's say that person goes out and they do something stupid or throw something at a National Guard member or draw a weapon on a National Guard member. What does that mean from the conservative response? Because now they suddenly have their perfect reason to go ahead and send in all of the force that they want to in response. We try to do things the nice way, we try to do things peacefully, but the violent left won't let us do it. We've got to unshackle, like the idea that they're on the side of peace is of course laughable. They're only on the side of enriching themselves while making their own base as stupid as they can. I just realized my Pokemon music stopped playing. That's why I got so quiet. I like having the Pokemon music for a little bit of background noise, just so it balances out the depressing talking points. From my understanding, some don't like doing that because it crosses the wires for them. But life's too short. It was a really good One Piece chapter this past week. It was a really good cover art. Look at this. Look at that. Oh, it looks so pretty. It looks so pretty. I want to see it bigger. Oh. I guess that's as big as I can get it. That's wild. That's a really cute cover art. Yeah, it brings me joy. Anyway, back to sad things. Let's turn off the Pokemon music and actually start this video.
Public safety emergency, saying he's activated 800 National Guard members in the nation's capital and has now placed the D.C. Police Department under federal control, saying that Attorney General Pam Bondi will, quote, take command. This takeover.
Oh yeah, Pam Bondi's in charge. Great.
Crime in the city is out of control despite a
yeah. Yeah, so crime is down exorbitant amounts. Violent crime 26, robbery is down 28%, sexual abuse is down 50%. The again, as I recall, the only crime that has gone up is arson in the DC area, in which that has gone up from 3 arsons to 4 arsons. So there's a 33% increase in arsons in DC, but not in a way that really is that alarming, if that makes sense.
Saying that certain crimes in the city have hit a 30-year low. Watch this.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. If necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen, and that'll take place very rapidly.
CNN's Brian Todd is closely following this story for us. So, Brian, take us through President Trump's order and what else he's threatening, because he says he might activate the military?
That's right, Boris. He says he's kind of reserving the option to activate additional military units in Washington, D.C. if need be. He then later said he didn't think he would need them, but he's going to keep that option open. He is also considering at least, expanding the National Guard deployment to other cities. He named Chicago and New York City. But let's see how this plays out in Washington, D.C. first. We do have some source reporting from 3 sources familiar with the matter saying that both the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and the D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith did not know of President Trump's announcement prior to when he made the announcement. They were caught kind of unaware of this prior to when he
we love good communication happening.
He made the announcement this morning. As you see the graphic there, the president plans to mobilize some 800 National Guard members on the city streets here in D.C. to put the D.C. police under federal control. That is unprecedented, by the way. A president of the United States has never taken control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department before. Also, FBI agents are going to be patrolling with the police department here. That is also a very rare occurrence, according to our sources. It's very rare for FBI agents to patrol with police in local police in any given city.
Which I'll be honest, I don't really like that intertwining very much. Like, the police force is already so violent and inherently white supremacist. Like, I'm not to say that the FBI isn't by any means, but you know, the less canoodling between those two, the happier I think I might be in this regard. I don't really like the idea of them getting really close and buddy with an officer by officer account in that way, to where it's that personalized.
Already some pushback here in the district from this. But let's first hear from President Trump. I'll get to the pushback in a moment, but here's what President Trump had to say about what he hopes the police could do in the city.
See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. You can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
That's fucking scary. Yeah, I can't believe this is actually happening here. Like, I if it was ever going to happen in this country, it was going to happen this way. You know, it's been a long effort to make this a viable path and a viable option for this party. You know, there was so much fear mongering, especially from the Democrats, around Project 2025 and about all of the things that was going to do. But Project 2025 wasn't a new conception. It's been the same plan for the past 40 to 60 years. That's why everything is happening in this way right now, because they've spent that time building up the courts in this way in which they are fitted for victory. They've spent that time packing in as many representatives at the small local level as they can. They've been devaluing education in public settings as much as they can for as long as they can, destroying our rural environments, completely disenfranchising the people and the economies of those places. Again, making detrimental changes to the education outcomes of those places. So you get everybody as dumb as they are, and this is what happens. They all, and the general conservative, because Trump is doing this, the general conservative response to this was saying this is a good thing. This is a thing that needs to happen. If this was Joe Biden or Obama or any Democrat that had ever done this, then it's the entirely opposite experience of, oh, they're treading on me, they're invading my Second Amendment rights. Every possible thing that they have baking in the recesses of their mind, like Asmongold's rat clock. Every talking point they can spew out, they'll just throw in response. There's no critical thinking behind it. There's no care for consistency about their worldviews. There's no consistency on their ethics or morals. There's no empathy to be shown or shared. It's simply, I'm going to get what's mine. I'm going to care about what makes things easiest for me. I don't like the fact that one time a trans person corrected me on their pronouns, and so therefore I think we need to genocide a bunch of people. Is essentially what the conservative mindset boils down to. It's mass hysteria that has no foundation in any actual problems. It's pure culture fallacies that act as a driving motivator. There's very few conservatives that can give you actual substance in terms of the talking points that they share. They just share what they share without giving it much consideration. But I mean, like here, you have Trump saying that police have the authority to do whatever the hell they want. Like, conservatives, when I was growing up before the Trump era, it was generally, your more small government, not wanting to have big government intervening, and yet they're celebrating the fact that FBI is going to be going on ride-alongs with local cops. That sounds like government interference to me. Like, you're excited about cops being able to do whatever the hell they want. Well, I mean, like, does that extend to like I don't know, the FBI when they're coming after you, or is that just when you want to see them beat up a 19-year-old college student because they're brown? Like, I think your motivations might be a little bit more xenophobic, a little bit more disingenuous. Oh yeah, no, I mean we are not a free country by most metrics. The general population likes to say that we're a free country because propaganda is very invasive. But no, the idea of being a free country is silly when, like, in Texas, for example, you to be a government employee, you have to sign a contract saying that you will not disavow Israel. That I don't consider that to be a part of a free country personally. I have to pledge my allegiance to a foreign government of which I am not a citizen of in order to work for a government that is going to provide my job. That seems, I can't, again, like, I've talked to liberals and I've talked to libertarians in my day, and like the idea of them being okay with any of this is absolutely crazy to me. I also know some libertarians that are in the National Guard, and I'm very curious as to their thoughts. But No, again, it's the continued disenfranchisement. It's all a part of the same goal. It's we don't have a free country in the way that Americans like to think that we do, or rather, the average American likes to think that we do. Uh, there's all kinds of limitations that they are that they don't even consider in their day-to-day life. I for one don't really consider it free just based off the fact of and based off the fact that if you do not have a job and do not have the financial capabilities of paying for the food and water and shelter that you need in order to survive, I don't consider that to be free. You're trapped in a system of which you have no ability to change or get away from. In what way are you free? But the illusion of freedom is very tantalizing. And, when you have one side that says, hey, some of our systems that are in place are broken and need to be worked on and fixed, and here are the steps to do that. And you have another side that says, actually, we're going to break the whole thing. And the side that says we're going to break the whole thing is actively winning because the other side is a bunch of, pussy-footed liberals. Then there's not much that you really can do. I can't wait to talk about Pete Buttigieg later. I'm so mad about him. But yeah, the average person definitely believes in the free country bit. The propaganda that we're the most free country in the world, despite the fact that blanking on the actual word equal. I'm blanking on the word. Blanking on the specific term and word for it. Anyway, I would argue in the same motion, as long as the patriarchy exists, there is no freedom of there is no freedom for women. They're stuck in a system of which they have little to no power to be able to change that system. In order to change that system, they have to violently fight for that change. I don't really necessarily think of that as super, super free, Yeah, that's always a good thing to have. Where a leader messes up, we can get rid of them. At least whereas at the moment, I mean, that's in theory, that's what we have. In theory, that is the separation of powers. That is the three branches of the government. But that goes back to what I was talking before about the specifically the Republican Party working for so long specifically for this moment and to get to this point of stacking the courts in the way that they have in terms of making sure that they have every state city council that they can stacked to the brim with yes men and cucks that do whatever they say. They've been working on this for such a long time. Now they're in the position of which those separation of powers, there is no separation. They're all working directly for Trump. You have some small exceptions where, the Supreme Court, in an effort to conserve their power as a branch of the government, say that they will they offer a 9-0 vote against Trump simply because they believe that the Republican Party, or rather the Republican Party, is going too far in that moment. But that's only in a matter of conserving their own power for long-term purposes. If it's a matter of caring about gay people, then fuck it. If it's a matter of the protection of trans people, then fuck it. If it's anything to do with the protection for DEI, then fuck it. But if it's something that has to do with the way in which the Supreme Court still has powers over the office of the presidency, not a chance. Not going to change. That's not going to happen. Clarence Thomas doesn't get paid enough for that. He gets paid enough by his side hustles, all his side deals, to pay for his vacation houses, but he doesn't get paid enough to strip the Supreme Court and his office of its power, because then he loses power. That's what everybody actually wants, is the power behind these things. But I couldn't agree with you more. We need a vote of no confidence would be a wonderful thing to do to be able to avoid a dictatorship from forming. I was saying to somebody earlier that at the very least I have little bright nuggets every now and then of hope, in that at least there are moments where it looks like they still expect the need for votes in the future. Like, there's been a couple of opportunities in which they could have gotten away with something, and they didn't. And I expect it's because they were fearful of that being used against them in the future by the Democratic Party or their political enemies. But they don't have that same energy all of the time. By no means. They're so gross. They're all so icky.
So the president promising a very tough crackdown on crime here in D.C. And again, we mentioned some pushback to this. The D.C. Attorney General, Brian Schwab, has issued this statement, quote, "The administration's actions are unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful. There is no crime emergency in the District of Columbia. Violent crime in D.C. reached historic 30-year lows last year and is down another 26% so far this year. We are considering all of our options and will do what's necessary to protect the rights and safety of district residents." Attorney General Schwab is correct there when he says that crime is down in D.C. According to the D.C. Metropolitan Police, violent crime is down 26%, assaults with a dangerous weapon down 20%, robberies down 29%, and crime overall is at historic lows in this city, Boris. We also got some pushback from council member Charles Allen of the D.C. City Council, saying this is doing this under the guise of public safety is, quote, wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for the city. That is the first member of the D.C. City Council to push back in earnest to this move. Boris?
Brian Todd, thank you so much for the reporting. Danny?
Boris, thank you. Former FBI Deputy Director and CNN Senior Law Enforcement Analyst Andrew McCabe joins us now. We also have former U.S. Attorney and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Litman. Thank you, gentlemen, for breaking down this very important story. Andrew, I want to start with you. From your perspective, is the purpose of this action purely to have just a massive show of force on the streets of D.C., or in practice, is there anything that will be done differently with the police department under federal control?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what the purpose is, right? So we know what the ostensible purpose is, the facts that, or the, I don't want to even call them facts, the information that the president cited during his press conference, which of course included comparing DC to places like Baghdad and Bogota, Colombia, where we have no accurate reporting about what their crime statistics are. The fact is that the crime situation in DC is at all-time lows. They were at a 30-year low last year, and it's down an additional 26% this year. So there is no crime emergency per se in the city. So when you understand that, to try to divine what the purpose is of this deployment of National Guard assets, what this reallocation of things like FBI agent resources to patrol the streets of DC, it raises some important questions, like, what is it? Why this production? Why this kind of Potemkin village of criminal intervention in a city? What is this designed to distract us from? I don't know that I can answer that for you here, but in effect, taking a federal official and simply calling him the head of the Metropolitan Police Department changes nothing within the Metropolitan Police Department. Those sworn officers are the only.
It's so upsetting that I still hear conservatives, specifically right now with Zohran Mamdani in New York, complaining about people, or rather complaining about the left complaining about the left defunding the police and saying that that's the worst thing that can happen. And at no point or no place are the police actually being defunded in any way whatsoever. In fact, just about every city, in response to the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter protests, responded by raising the police budget. So I don't know why they always seem to care or pretend to care so much about the about this thing, other than just the attention grab that it gets from their base. But I'm really tired of hearing this, how are they going to pay for its argument when it comes to anything, and yet at the same time we're offering signing bonus to ICE agents that are coming into attacking our cities and citizens. We're offering tuition forgiveness to them. We're offering loan forgiveness to them. Again, all the things that we can't afford to pay our teachers, because how are we going to pay for it? We can always pay when it comes to military or defense or violence purpose. But when it comes to anything that would be beneficial to people en masses, that's something that when we fight for, we have to justify the spending of it. It's dog shit, and it's really annoying. I'm tired of that one. I want to hear the Five talk. So the Five had some stuff to say about Liberation Day. How many Liberation Days do you get? Everything's Liberation Day now. It takes the meaning away from liberation. I mean, maybe that's probably a ploy as well, who cares about liberation for the masses when there's a Liberation Day every week by Trump's making. But there was the Liberation Day for the tariffs. Now there's Liberation Day in D.C., but it's separate from the tariff liberation. This is a different kind of liberation. This is the kind of liberation in which we liberate cops to smash more brown and black skulls, right? That's their goal.
The gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be.
And here's a familiar face, U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, vowing to change the laws that protect violent young offenders.
We need to go after the D.C. Council and their absurd laws. The president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. These kids understand. I can't arrest them. I can't prosecute them. They go to family court, and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today.
And D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser responding to the president, making the case that crime is down from previous years. Meanwhile, some in the media are suggesting there's a racial element to Trump's crackdown.
I like the Fox News type here, the type on the screen of D.C. Mayor downplays concerns about violent crime. When in actuality, that headline should be D.C. Mayor accurately gives crime information and numbers. DC Mayor accurately reports studies found from this particular place and time.
They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail.
All right, let me start with my former.
I mean, I feel like saying that it's specifically like a what was it?
What do you think that means?
Media are suggesting there's a racial element to Trump's crackdown.
They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of.
I mean, I feel like it's not just a matter of being racially motivated, but it's a matter of poverty. I mean, which is sure that's a racial systemic issue, and there's a racial systemic causation for that poverty and for that place. But I feel like saying that the sending in of troops and the taking over of the police is specifically racially motivated takes away from the goal of the normalization of the National Guard in our cities. Takes away from the focus on the it breeds more separation as opposed to worker consolidation and worker solidation.
Easy fodder on the campaign trail.
All right, let me start with my former Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill neighbor, Charlie Hurt. It's one of these things that when you live in that city, you wake up and you look at the Capitol. Wow, it's so beautiful, it's so great. But you have that awareness around you, and it's gotten worse since I left.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that since if you look at the numbers and I'm always very skeptical about all the numbers, but just from 2012 to today, the murder rate itself has doubled. It's a serious problem, and it has been a serious problem for a long time. And I think that, and I love, and I agree, nobody can.
Oh no, they're showing looting footage. Oh God, it's a Fox News watcher's worst nightmare. Photo of looting in a business. Business, the most important thing for us to care about. The Capitol owners.
Attention the way Donald Trump does.
Avert your gaze.
He even pitch his new ballroom repeatedly. He never stops selling. He keeps talking.
Like your eye direction.
Shouting out to the reporters in the room, I know you're all liberal, but you want to have a safe city. The place was absolutely jam-packed, I think, in at least some small part.
So welcome in. Not even joking. The every crime number in DC is down except for arson. Arson is up. It went from 3 to 4. Crazy, right?
Everybody in there does know the safety risks, and they do know people who have been mugged or shot or worse in the city. And the idea that you're going to hide behind this notion that, this is an impossible problem that can never be fixed. And politicians, that's kind of like the last place they go when they don't want to face accountability for something, and they don't have any solutions for anything. They just say it's a problem that cannot be fixed. And we've heard this for years, for decades, about the Middle East. We've heard this for decades from both parties about the border. And Donald Trump came along and said, well, I'm not going to look at it the way you look at it and say that this is a problem that cannot be fixed. I'm going to actually try to fix it. And so then what did we wind up with in the Middle East? We wind up with the Abraham Accords, which I think are the most important steps towards actual peace in the Middle East that we've ever seen. And if he is able to extend them, they could become even more powerful in that regard. And then, of course, the border, he manages to walk in and fix the border in one day.
In one day. The idea that Trump is creating peace in the Middle East is, I would argue, laughable, as he talks about Israel's need to go in and bulldoze over every living thing that hasn't moved out of the way in Gaza, as they talk about ethnic displacement of Palestinians in Gaza. I don't really think he's doing much to promote peace in the Middle East while they're striking Iran. Oh yeah, they would have lost their minds, if I was talking earlier about, what if Biden sent in the National Guard anywhere, or did anything close to what he has done. The reaction is, don't tread on me. They're trying to take away my First Amendment right. The hypocrisy is wild, but they don't have any moral foundations or any kind of backing to their worldview in terms of ethics or understanding of philosophies. And I'm a dumbass, but at the very least, I think recognize right from wrong. Like the hypocrisy is crazy. You have Trump saying that we need to unshackle the police and get them on the streets, really breaking the necks of as many poor people as they can, because that he's seen them be spit on. He's seen the police be spit on. But this is also the guy that pardoned every single person at January 6th. This is also the guy who has somebody in his Department of Justice who was at January 6th screaming, "Kill them! Kill those cops! Kill them!" Like there's no reason to have the expectation that a conservative will care about the hypocrisy that they show, because they never have before. If they're confronted on it, they just shut down and start yelling, and will burst into talking points that don't have anything to do with, or divert or pivot. But the entire conservative party and platform is a mass psychosis.
So I'm kind of open-minded to the idea that, D.C. is a kind of a cesspool in a lot of ways. It's a dangerous city in a lot of ways, but I don't know, maybe thinking about it from a totally different approach might fix it.
Emily, no one
Cool.
didn't have any type of coverage of this in April.
It might
when
fix
the
it.
Governor of
What could go
Mexico,
wrong?
who's a Democrat, called in the National Guard to help with crime in that city, and good for them because they needed to do something about it. What do you think the legal issues that some of the Democrats are bringing up, saying that this isn't allowed, this is not constitutional? Is that going to hold up?
Right. No, it won't, because I think President Trump has been very clear that he's exercising the specific powers afforded to him there in Washington, D.C. And the mayor acknowledged in reaching out to the attorney general saying, I will be here to collaborate with you. Now, granted, she also pushed back on a lot
They're
of
showing
issues
more
there,
looting
but,
footage.
I see him actually staying squarely within the lane that the
Oh,
Constitution
no.
afforded him and meant.
They're showing more looting footage. These are.
It was never supposed to be a
What is this one?
like it has become now, frankly. That's certainly not what the framers
Okay, yeah, more looting. So they all through this segment, they've been showing footage of crime happening as they're talking about how Washington D.C. is bedlam, how it's reached levels comparable to Baghdad in terms of crime, and there's murder, rape, and everything bad all around it all the times. And yet the only piece of footage that they're able to show any of that off is just CCTV of stores being robbed. Like, this is you're really selling your case to me here you're really proving your point for me that crime is so bad that a couple of stores have gotten things stolen from them. Of course, the actual addresses that problem of making sure that people have the material conditions that they need in order to survive as well as thrive. Addressing those needs and making sure that people have those things, and solving the root cause that lead to people stealing, that lead to crime starting in the first place in these poverty-stricken places. Addressing those issues and solving those problems, can't have it. They're talking about rounding up the homeless right now and putting them in concentration camps. There's a solution to solving the homeless problem. Give them homes. Just give them. There's upwards of 900,000 homeless in the country, and there's currently about 16 million vacant homes in the country that are just being left unattended, unused, simply because they're investment property. There's no need to use them because you can sell them at some point, or you can charge rent for them at some point at a higher price later. We could solve the homeless problem today. We could solve it yesterday, and it's simply a matter of just putting the people in the homes. Every single street that I go down, or rather, I just moved away from Atlanta, and all through the city there are retail buildings. Giant retail, like office spaces that are no longer used because the employees have gone remote. There are buildings that are just completely abandoned. There's also a ton of places that are just abandoned. Stuff is overgrowing onto them, but like the power's been left on and it's just constantly eating up power. That's super cool. But like all of these places are options. How many in your hometown? How many like malls or how many like businesses that sit empty can you think of that we could simply just convert into a very simple living space, and they can very easily just live in that space. The easiest way to end homelessness is to get people out of the cycle of poverty and homelessness. If you want to end homelessness, put them in a home and get them to a situation in which they can address whatever problems that they may have that they need to address. But more importantly, have a situation where they're stable enough to where they can actually support themselves. The number one reason that people end up being homeless is due to loss of employment. Not a matter of not wanting to go out and get a job. Not a matter of not wanting to keep your job. It's a matter of you had a job and then your employer decided you were no longer necessary to that company, so they cut you. You know, what can you do about that? And it just so happened after that happened, you couldn't find another job that paid for things that you needed to. It happens as simple as that. And as long as the homeless are being used as a threat against the average citizen in the country, in a sense of this is what can happen to you, so stay in line and work your job. Otherwise, you'll be out here sleeping on the streets with nothing to your name. If we get rid of the homeless, then we won't have them to use as that sort of threat against the common individual. So yeah, I love that they have, again, I think I started from just complaining about them talking about crime and just only showing robberies, because the violent crime that they're talking about simply isn't happening at the levels that they are saying that it is, are talking about it happening at. It's just more lies. It's just more lies.
So how did we get here? Let's talk about it. So the laws and policies in DC, like the Youth Rehabilitation Act and the age of criminalization being 18 and family court diversion, they have been totally distorted. The aim was to protect children from themselves, but we need to be protected from these children. The rate of recidivism for them alone, for these kids, is almost double that of adult recidivism rates, and they are disproportionately committing these violent crimes. So the mayor says crime is down in DC, but here are the facts.
That is so disingenuous. So, so their argument is that because children that are arrested have a lower rearrest rate, we need to start arresting people at a younger age than 18. That way we arrest more children, and there's a lower rearrest rate. There's several problems with that. The first one that I see is that, you know, when you are specifically a child who is arrested and put into a prison or a sort of care facility of that nature, there are different programs that are put in place, and there are different systems put in place that are there to benefit you because you are still a child, that those in, you know, older Gen Pop don't have access to. No, that can very easily lead to the reason as to why you're not rearrested, because you had extra benefits. You oftentimes get more leniency on your you know, your parole as an opportunity for rearresting. You know, for example, another reason that you see that this is less of a problem is that if you are not arresting minors in the same way, like you arrest some minors and you convict some minors as adults and try them as adults in some ways, but you're not including the arrestings of those minors that get sent to juvenile court and are sent to, you know, juvenile programs or go through different steps of that nature. And so, of course, they're not going to have like a lower rearrest rate, because oftentimes these are 15, 16-year-olds who went through juvie programs, and then if they got arrested again, you know, that was after they were 18 years old, or after they were 18 and they were no longer under whatever protection or shelter or base of operations they had, they're able to, or rather they are then exploited and put into a system of which they can't escape the poverty. But again, it goes back to not wanting to address the actual systemic reasons that these happen in the first place. School to prison pipeline, oh yeah, like the like, I mean, schools have been designed in prison as prisons for a long time for very specific reasons. It's very, you know, conformity inducing. It's very, you know, we want you to get used to working in a cinder block room in which you do not have access to light or creativity or things that would inspire you to think differently. We want to put you in the cinder block room with no windows. But the idea of lowering the arrest age to a number smaller than 18, and as you meanwhile also up the age of up the age for cigarettes and alcohol, while also lowering the age for requirements to work. The child to worker / child to property of the state, slave worker in prison pipeline is you're right, is absolutely crazy. Like the I think goal is pretty clear. Oh my god, I'm really just annoyed at that framing of well, if we start arresting people at a younger age and we make it so that we can arrest them, this factor that didn't apply before will suddenly start applying, and it'll be good now because it's being applied, as opposed to before it didn't need to be applied. Oh my god, it's such bad faith. And like the problem is, the how many views does the 5 video have? 638,000 views from 19 hours ago. How many of those are just simply fans that hear that and say, yeah, well, that makes sense to me? The parents are a huge part of the problem. They should prosecute juveniles as adults for assaults. If it wasn't for the sympathetic liberals, we wouldn't be in this crap to begin with. I mean, the first problem is reading YouTube comments. Oh yeah, I mean, don't worry. There's multiple avenues in which this can happen. There's option A, which is just you can just arrest them. There's option B, in which you just have them go through the normal process of you convince them to go to college so that you get them into debt slavery, so that way they have to work for the rest of their life as opposed to any other option. There's that option to keep people in line. There's going to be the RFK autism camps that they'll turn into. I think the plan was to turn those into work programs. So if your kid is autistic and more liberal leaning or liberal, I guess we'll say ready to be liberalized, then they get to go to their special work camps. If you're homeless, which there's you're at a much higher risk of being homeless. If you're trans, specifically if you're trans youth, you're at much higher risk to be homeless. Good thing we got concentration camps for the homeless coming up. We have a work program for everything. It's very reminiscent of a phrase of a concentration camp called Auschwitz. I remember just make sure you stay busy. The construction of the 40-hour work week has been made so that way we have as little time as possible for outside engagements. We don't have the opportunity to go out and organize and to go out and be part of the community. We only have the opportunity to go do our job, take care of what we need to at home, and then best viewers on Streamboo. Ooh, how exciting! That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's just again another form of lack of freedom that we just don't have.
If DC was a state, it would be the highest homicide rate. It is 6 times higher than here in New York City. In 2025 alone, there have been 1,600 violent crimes and almost 100 homicides. And vehicle theft is up almost 600% in just 5 years alone. And a final note about the violence and the classification, because you hear a lot from the left when they argue or throw out criticism when they're not saying that things are racist or unable to be fixed. And it's always about, well, it's non-violent or it's a misdemeanor. And all of those classifications have been sort of summarily, magically introduced into the conversation, and it is not based in reality. Talk to any criminal law attorney or a victim or a family member and tell them carjacking's not violent, or these burglaries en masse are not violent, or stalking is not violent, or these burglaries are a misdemeanor, and they will argue with you every step of the way.
Now, if who is this? I don't know who this is talking right now. I don't really care, to be honest. Now, if you want to have a conversation about like what can be done about stalking laws in order to make sure that women are protected, then we can absolutely have that conversation. But I don't think you're being genuine in your desire to protect women here. I think you are using them as an object for you to be able to say we need to protect them without actually giving any care to protect them. You were asked specifically about the legality of what the administration is doing. And your response to that was, well, it's kind of fishy, but here are the made up numbers that don't have any merit or any actual like verification behind them other than me saying them to you on the spot right now. Here's some numbers about the crimes taking place in DC. And aside from that, let me appeal to you emotionally and say, oh, you try telling me that a carjacking isn't violent. They have to break out the window of the car. That's a violent action. That's not what we're talking about. And you say ask any criminal defense attorney about what they would classify as violence. That I would love for you to, because that's a very specific thing. Violence in a manner of law is a very specific act that generally infers or includes going against somebody else's consent. A car does not have consent. Again, like this. It's also just a consistent summation of property with human life. You know, we have to care about property, and we have to care about land, and we have to care about capital as much as we care about each and every person. You know, we have to care about a carjacking being violent as much as we care about the stalking of a woman being violent.
The way. So DC is the first city, and plenty more will take, I think, this example, which will be whip everyone into shape, the prosecutors, the judges, the law enforcement, get the kids out of this family court. Bravo, President Trump.
There's a young Democrat named Yemisi Egbobole that I've been getting to know a little bit, and
How's he doing?
She's great, and you're going to like her. She's probably going to be on your show sometime.
She's great.
She's great.
Okay,
And
cool.
She wrote a piece for Fox Opinion today, basically, Harold, saying that Democrats should not downplay the crime issue, especially for minority neighborhoods, because it's on their minds and they would like it fixed too, and that maybe they're going to be okay with somebody trying to get a handle on it.
Right, so good to be back.
I mean, like that's a cool notion. Oh my God, I've been streaming for an hour and 17 minutes. You know, I got into this watching a lot of Hassan, or rather, that was where I've watched a lot of my streaming content up until now is from Hassan, and I think I'm starting to understand the anger, because every single person up here has, you know, just given a flip-floppy, non-committal answer, just spewing bullshit.
Maybe they're going to be okay with somebody trying to get a handle on it.
Like, you don't care about the minority citizens in these places, like you claim to. If you actually cared about the minority citizens that and the undocumented in these places, and you know, grandstanding and virtue signaling about these immigrants, then maybe you would make sure that we actually maintain sanctuary city status. Every single study that has been done on sanctuary cities has shown that undocumented immigrants, as well as immigrant communities in general, are much more compliant and much more communicative with police departments about crime that is taking place, when they know that when the police show up, they aren't going to be deported like animals. when they know that just because the police come by and are checking on things, they aren't going to be shackled and put onto a plane to Guatemala. Like the idea that you're looking at, again, it's the same thing with the woman before her saying we need to lower the arrest rate and charge minors more often like adults as often as we can, so that way we can protect the women. You don't care about protecting the women. We need to do this so that we can protect the minorities that live in these areas. You don't care about the minorities. If you wanted to, we could have a conversation about actually addressing stalking laws. Like you mentioned, if you wanted to, we could talk about expanding rights for sanctuary cities and different ways that we could make things better, safer, as well as overall more equitable for these different communities, for these different people, and make sure that everybody's given the fair shot that America loves to claim to be able to provide. But oh my God, actually, just say you're excited about having more slaves. Like that's what the push here is.
Right. So good to be back around the table. I try not to put race in everything. And in this instance here, Greg has said something many times before about crime. And we were talking about the border in the context about why does the issue have to be? But you're not at all, Dana. But why do we have to talk about race, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican doing it. No one wants their pocketbook stolen. No one wants their kids attacked. No one wants their sister or mom raped. And no one wants their grandfather shot while trying to go get on a train. I read a little while ago that Union Station in D.C. is a place where some of the National Guard will be deployed first. And some other neighborhoods. I've been in the train station early in the morning there in Union Station, and it's trying to navigate a crazy place as you're walking through there. I can imagine if I had my kids with me during that time. I think Democrats need to understand, and Republicans, but Democrats, just to put the politics on it, when President Trump talked about the border during the campaign, and Democrats, for whatever reason, some of the national Democrats and some big voices in the party, particularly the president and some around him, didn't seem to take that as seriously. That was an issue that hurt us, but more importantly, it was an issue that hurt the country. The crime issue, I heard Kash Patel today say during the press conference, and he was right, that the murder rate has come down. The Mayor Bowser has said the murder rate has come down. But when you live in communities, or you live in neighborhoods where crime is taking place, those statistics mean things, but if you're worried about your kids, worried about yourself, worried about your families, you want someone, and you're expecting government to step up to the plate. I'd say one thing to everybody, New Yorkers, people live in Maryland, people live in Colorado, people live in Illinois, Florida, Georgia. We need to end cash bail. This no cash bail thing has not worked. Now, there were many who thought it might work because you were going to let people were going to jail to spend more, they were spending more time waiting for their trial than they were if they got convicted of something. But we're seeing now that the thing doesn't work. There ought to be a bipartisan effort to say, look, let's end it now. Whether you're a Democrat that supported it in the past, it just didn't work. And we ought to be willing to admit that. Any Republican or Democrat has an idea that doesn't work, just admit when it doesn't work. This one has not worked. We should get away from it. Two, our Fox reporter, I can't think of his name.
Oh my God, he
guy.
just
I've seen him on
keeps
Brett Maher's
talking.
show a lot, and I've seen him on your show in the morning.
He just won't
asked,
shut up.
I think the first or second question of President Trump during the press conference, and I think it's a legitimate question. He said, Mr. President, will you be willing to take this to other cities? And the president said, yes. I hope that this template works, that we find a way to take it to Chicago and Baltimore and Memphis and Denver and Atlanta and other places that may need it, where you have communities that are wrecked by crime. And then two, he raised a question, which I'm totally opposed to the legalization of any drugs. And apparently President Trump and his team are looking at reclassifying marijuana. And the reporter asked, how do you reconcile that if people think that could be a gateway to some other things that these kids are doing? And I thought my former seatmate here and my pal here who talked about young people, I wouldn't be surprised if there were not drugs that are a part of that, as well as these young people are holding guns and handling guns and committing crimes with guns. It was interesting. I didn't realize you couldn't prosecute a kid unless they kill somebody with the gun or rape somebody with the gun. If they have a gun or they use it,
Which one do you remove?
That has to change, and I hope that the U.S.
There's two P's.
Able to change that. And finally, again, I hope that the people who want to inject race in this stuff don't. Crime.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Happens. I don't care who it happens to. I'm not happy if it happens to a Democrat. I'm not happy if it happens to a Republican. I thought the president was cute with words about you liberals. Liberals don't like crime. Conservatives don't like crime. Blacks don't like crime. Whites don't like crime. Let's get rid of it.
I like crime.
That's why
I love crime.
Encouraged by what the president did today.
I want more crime. Oh, he finally stopped talking. Thank you very much, black man that Fox News hires to specifically say, I'm not here to bring up race. Anyway, old white people, it's okay that you feel this way about race. Like, I think that's he was so close. His the mind virus almost shone through. He almost saw them. He almost saw the numbers. I don't think he said anything of relevance. I feel like I took a razor blade against my cheek. You know, I feel like I listened to everything, and I didn't get a word of anything. Nothing of merit was brought to me from anything he had to say. You know, they talk about sending National Guard. He had a big list of places there: Atlanta, Memphis, Chicago, New York. Which, of course, are all heavily have heavy black populations inside of them. But again, like in the same way I heard them talking about on MSNBC about this being a racial issue and them going after race in this way. And him bringing up race in this way, I feel like, is just a distraction, another dividing line, because it's not a matter of race. It's a matter of they're going after poor people. It's just when you have cities with poor people are exactly what your base want to see you commit violence towards. So if you want to commit violence towards poor people, you might as well do it in the place like the urban city, where they're all sort of a little bit more together. They're generally a little bit less armed. They typically have less guns. Meanwhile, all of your fans that live out in either the suburbs or, that live in a town that has, 7 people in it now because every grandchild saw that they were going to die there and left. All of these small towns that have nothing to them anymore, they get to watch all of the urbanites get the shit beat out of them. They get to jerk off to that for a little while. So everybody wins. Everybody wins. As long as the poor people lose, that's what's important. Well, as long as the right poor people lose at the time that's convenient to those in power in the right order, we're all good. That's all that matters.
Greg, of course, you're going to comment on whatever you want, but let me set up one thing that occurred to me today.
Ooh, exciting.
Is that President Trump isn't doing this for himself, right? So he lives in the White House. He has car service through the Secret Service. He gets to go to Mar-a-Lago. He goes to his place, what's it called? The nice place? Bedminster. And so it's like he's wanting to make the city better for other people. And he's like, okay, well, I have the power to try to help. So he says, we might as well give this a shot.
What a peacemaker. What an angel.
That he addresses are like
he's so
that.
kind.
Have you noticed that? Whether it is the border or the Middle East or this, it's like he'll look at war and you'll think, oh, he's so simplistic about saying what a waste. When he looks at war, he says, what a waste. All these people dying. They could be working and making money. That's how he thinks. And he's like, all these
Oh, yeah. The only way people have value if they're working and making money.
people dying, carjacking, that's bad. And all the academics are like, oh, he's so simple. Sorry, dude. He's right. You know what? I used to look at life, Dana, as something that everything would go my way. And when things go wrong, that would be the exception. I realized that it's the opposite, that life is actually a series of inconveniences. And when something goes right, that you should be grateful. That's Trump. If you look at Trump expecting a smooth ride, you're insane, right? But if you accept his brash, confrontational, unpredictable style as the system, when you get these big gifts, whether it is the closed border or the Abraham Accords, you go, wow, that's something else, and you're grateful for it. Trump.
It's funny you mentioned it. I think Trump has actually only ever been described as a rough ride. Nothing good about it.
Human embodiment of life.
Big gifts. The biggest gifts.
It's challenging.
The biggest gifts he's seen. Not little ones, not like my hands. These are big.
It's wonderful and it's huge.
Big like Putin's hands. Big like Le Poo-Poo's hands.
You asked me that question. Can I talk about
Have you seen these Le Poo-Poos?
crime? All right. The homicide rate is 6 times higher in D.C. than in New York City. It's 18 times higher than Havana. Carjacking is up 547%.
547%. Like the ones he left in his diaper. Whenever I think of diaper, I always think of the Trump tennis photo. Yeah, there he is. That's my president. Fuck all these liberals. That's my president right there. In all his glory.
From 2018 to 2023, the D.C. police commander was suspended for changing crime stats to make it look like they had dropped. They would report something that involved a gun or a knife as a felony assault because the FBI uniform crime system doesn't report felony assaults. This is the nation's capital. This is where a lot of people come because it's our capital. It's like going to Disneyland and their oldest, greatest ride is a bottomless pit with spikes in the bottom. It's like you get there and you go, this is what the country's about? Now, imagine if we didn't care at all. If the adults just went home and got cigarettes or just left home, got cigarettes, didn't come back. That would be racist. But if you decide to stay and save the cities from this progressive ideology that only makes it unlivable for everybody but politicians, then that's racist too. So if you stay and help, it's racist. If you choose to leave, white flight, that's racist too. But why can't you leave if you're not wanted? How was that racist? Turns out that's the Democrat Party. People are leaving that. They're leaving colleges that are anti-Semitic. They're leaving cities that are dangerous. Turns out the intolerant few causes the many to leave. You notice this. No cash bail, you bring that up. You brought this up a lot. Probably, what, a dozen times in the last 2 years?
At least.
Everybody agrees. Why doesn't it change? We need to ask, why is no cash bail still around? Who is it profiting? Who is it benefiting if everybody agrees? And why can't we just stop it? There's something going on there.
President should executive order that too.
Amen.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have a press conference on that tomorrow.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube.
I don't want to subscribe. Yeah, that was a waste of time to listen to. The uselessness that is Fox News is always heartbreaking. Anyway, that's sort of what's going on in DC right now. We've got National Guard being thrown in with talks about them being sent other places. Again, my belief and understanding is that the purpose behind this is to offer opportunities for escalations to happen with the National Guard, which will allow validity to the administration, or at least in their mind, to enact martial law. I think the thing that I'm worried about with that is I don't think I think they're more worried about some of these things than they need to be. I think they're more concerned about I think they're testing the waters a lot more than they have to, which I'm grateful for. It gives more opportunity for cracks to show. But let's say they were to start martial law up right now, what happens? Who's gonna do anything? What stops that from happening? I can't think of any political leaders. Oh yeah, I mean everything to get away from the Epstein files is a good one. I mean that's one of the reasons I wanted to start streaming was to offer my own source of pressure wherever I could. But maintaining conversation around the Epstein files, I think, is very important because there is no good defense around it. The right is a conspiracy theory trap where they thrive on these conspiracies, and it's the one thing that they haven't fully gotten behind with the Trump campaign on. Is just swallowing the pill and getting over, because Trump's biggest problem with this is that he wants to come out and say, yes, I fucked those kids and it's fine, but it's hard to do that when every person that's not a pedophile is against pedophiles, and it's much harder to do that when you were having romantic picnics and reenacting the Titanic pose with your girlfriend, Epstein, when you guys were making out on the couch and was caught on camera by MTV, and there's not much you can really do about getting away from your involvement, and the further things get dug into with it, the more it's going to come out. They got away with not subpoenaing Trump about the Epstein files, but the trade-off to that is that they do have the Clintons coming in to Congress. I don't think they were able to get Trump, but they were able to get the Clintons. But what are the Clintons going to be offered that wouldn't implicate Trump when being subpoenaed by Congress? I also heard somebody saying no, they can't subpoena the Clintons for this. Oh, fuck off! Of course they can. Get the fuck out of here. I'm really angry and really annoyed about Pete Buttigieg. I've always been iffy about Pete Buttigieg. I've never trusted the guy personally. Something about him reeks fake to me. I think it reminds me of a TV character. Oh yeah, right. I think it reminds me of a TV character that like specifically carved their life around trying to like be the most electable person possible, and maybe just always gave too much of that vibe for me. But so Pete's been doing some things recently as he comes out as more like the centrist corporate Democrat that doesn't have any interest in actually progressing the party. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to helping the Democrat Party, when it comes to advancing the Democrat Party, there is only one solution, and that is New York's favorite Labubu, Zohran Mamdani. He's such a cutie. Look at him. There we go. That's what we need up on the screen. Forget Pete Buttigieg. We're gonna have Zohran up here. As far as I can see, the only future for the Democratic Party at this point is Zohran Mamdani. I have watched Veep. I love Veep. Veep is hilarious. Veep did a really good job of, as far as I've been able to portray things in politics accurately. But I do remember I specifically hate the really tall, lanky guy. I know you know who I'm talking about. But I found them to be specifically insufferable. Like combine like Dennis from It's Always Sunny with another Dennis from It's Always Sunny. Yeah, Jonah. It was Jonah. Fucking Jonah. But like as far as advancement for the Democratic Party, like Zohran Mamdani is, as far as I can tell, the only way forward. Dennis squared. Imagine Dennis cubed. The every other person within the party has been compromised. Like I'm always going to love and have love for Bernie Sanders, but the fact that he still refuses to call what's happening in Gaza a genocide is a little bit sickening. I've been a fan of AOC for a very long time, but if you're not really doing much a whole lot right now, considering that you are the biggest face that the Democratic Party has in terms of energy and excitement and activism, I need a little bit more going on consistently from you if you're going to maintain that placehold and maintain that name recognition. And especially, I'm going to need you to not vote to continue sending aid to Israel. This idea of, we vote against it because it was brought up by Marjorie Taylor Greene. We vote against it because it's not actually stopping, or it's not stopping money that's going towards weapons that are killing Palestinians. It's going towards weapons that are specifically for the defense of Israel. Both of those are bullshit cop-out answers, and you know that. That was a bad political move. And if you're going to keep on doing stuff like that, then you need to get out of the way of like the progression of the left as a whole. But you have AOC being wish-washy, flip-floppy, being shitty about Israel now. You have Chuck Schumer, Israel's favorite fanboy. He has no interest in doing anything to the benefit of the American people, only to the benefit of Israel. You have Hakeem Jeffries, who's ultra mega corporatist Democrat. When the first thing that happened after the tariffs were put in place was him going and talking to Silicon Valley donors and making sure that they felt comforted and making sure that they felt as though their dicks had been stroked enough, as opposed to addressing the people. And when he actually did address the people and stood for 25 hours doing nothing except for grandstanding and being able to say that I stood for 25 hours doing this thing, at no point did he bring up the ongoing genocide of Gaza during that time. Obama's fucked off. I don't know what Obama's doing, but like I don't see him really being helpful or benefiting us in any way whatsoever. There's no help from Hillary Clinton. Kamala Harris has already said that she's not going to be running for government office in California this year. I don't know why she would go on to do anything else. Aside from that, who do you have? Right, like I don't think you have anybody else. But yeah, no, the way Mamdani is able to get people excited is unlike anything else. Like he had a total of, I think it was 33,000 volunteers across New York City that he managed to gather in the course of about 6 months of his campaign. They have no like dirt that they can readily throw at him in terms of like his policies. Excuse me. His shady history. He's consistently on message, consistently good. And he speaks to what people actually care about and what actually benefits people. Pete, on the other hand, I heard them talk. Heard somebody ask Pete Buttigieg what his thoughts on Zohran Mamdani, what he thought they were, and his answer was that he thought that people were really excited about Zohran Mamdani, not necessarily because of his policies. It wasn't necessarily his policies that made him popular, but rather it was the fact that he was consistent and on message, and that's something that the Democrat Party lacked. And it was a matter of not that he has taken up populist policies that benefit the working class. It's just a matter of he's a well-disciplined candidate that speaks to the youth in a way that Gen Z likes, and he's able to touch into that while completely ignoring the fact that it was entirely due to his policies that he became popular in the first place. Yeah, he's a wonderful candidate. He's incredibly disciplined. He's incredibly well put together. He remains on message incredibly well. He's able to answer any question with dignity and grace, with a beautiful smile on his face, in a way that comes across as honestly not scary. Like to like the boomer conservative, he's not giving like that, the scary Muslim vibe. So it's hard to throw that back at him. Like Andrew Cuomo was actively darkening his skin, elongating his beard, and putting grainy filters over the photos of his campaign ads as attack ads during the run-up in an effort to play into that more, again, scary Muslim stereotype. And it had absolutely zero effect aside from, people saying, why the fuck would you do that, Andrew Cuomo? But Zohran Mamdani here has some really good ideas, such as freezing the rent, which has been done in New York multiple times, both throughout COVID and outside of COVID. But overall is exactly the kind of relief that every New Yorker knows that they need, as anybody who lives in an apartment knows that people need right now, because apartments are completely out of control when it comes to their rent prices being gouged out the ass. Aside from apartments, aside from the rent freeze, you also have him talking about borough-owned and specifically state-run grocery stores. Every place that this has been implemented, it's only had benefits. It costs a total of, I believe, $60 million a year to be able to implement and run effectively. Meanwhile, in terms of subsidies alone, we would be saving a total of about $140 million in subsidies towards local businesses and towards already established grocery stores in the city. So we're saving on subsidies, as well as making sure that we're able to guarantee jobs that aren't like Walmart jobs, where you have to have a Walmart job and another job, or you have to have a Walmart job and be on food stamps, or have a Walmart job and get SNAP benefits. It's not like a Walmart job where we get shit benefits. This is a government job, a government provided job in which there's a low entry rate because you don't have to have a lot of experience to work at a grocery store. Has a low entry rate, easy to be able to get in, easy to be able to work in this place, easy to be able to mandate and offer consistent standards in terms of healthcare, in terms of pay, because again, it's a federal run program. Like, it's a great jobs program. It's a great opportunity for the people of the town to save money because they're not paying the exorbitant grocery prices that you pay at a normal grocery store. You pay much more at a grocery store because you have to deal with private company interference. You have to deal with price inflation that you don't have control over. You have to deal with also the subsidies that the companies are given. You have to pay those as well through your taxes. So you're getting double charged out the ass for these things, as opposed to having a state-run, city-run grocery store, or rather, yes, a city-run grocery store right in the middle of your city that's led by the local community members of your city. That sounds like a much more reasonable and better offer. Unless you specifically, want to like increase the Walton stock value. If that's your goal, then pop the fuck off. So not only do you have Pete Buttigieg saying those things about Zoran, in which again he's he's not popular because of his policies, but rather just because he's a good and flashy candidate, which is absolutely disingenuous, completely disregarding the care and the push that every American citizen has towards populist positions. Like every American in the country actively wants populist positions. Republicans run on populist positions. They simply just don't enact on those populist positions, or rather, if they do enact on those populist positions, it's in the realm of for me and my own. For me and mine, we get the benefits. For everyone else, you can go fuck off. We see that right now with ICE getting, payouts based off of how many immigrants they're able to round up, and through loan forgiveness programs for these Nazis. So you also have Pete Buttigieg going on Pod Save America, saying all kinds of fun stuff. For example,
more than half of Senate Democrats just voted to oppose the sale of over $500 million worth of U.S. bombs and guns to Israel. Would you have voted to oppose sending those weapons?
I think we need to insist that if American taxpayer funding is going to weaponry that is going to Israel, that is not going to things that shock the conscience. And look, we see images every day that shock the conscience. So much of this is complicated, but what's not complicated is that if a child is starving because of a choice made by a government, that is unconscionable. And I think especially including voices who care about Israel, who believe in Israel's right to exist, who have stood with Israel in response to the unbelievable cruelty and terrorism of October 7th. I think there's a reason why so many of those voices are speaking up now too, because this is not just something that is on its face and in itself a moral catastrophe. It is also a catastrophe for Israel for the long run.
How do you think the next administration?
I'm gonna be insufferable with this because I'm absolutely pissed with that response. Like, I'm assuming that Pete Buttigieg is ramping up and getting ready to run for presidency. And if this is your response on Gaza, then I don't have any room for you to be a part of the party. I don't have any room for you to be a leader whatsoever, because this is the same exact bullshit that Biden was spewing out that got us to this exact situation we're still in. That's led to upwards of 2 million people facing stage 5 malnourishment, which leaves detrimental effects on both mental and physical capabilities in the future. Like the final stages of the genocide are upon us, and we have, again, presumably, the person that I'm guessing is going to be running for president in the next election. But the way that he's going on the podcast series right now, the way that he's like painted himself more of this rough and tumble, leaning into the beard. He's got his polo shirt on, looking a little bit more casual, looking a little bit more down to earth to reach out to the podcast bros. Like he's very much assuming the chameleon role for what's needed and what the Democrats think they need to do to win the next election, which is just to start podcasting. Because that's the only thing that they need. They don't actually need to be held accountable. They don't actually need to hold others accountable. They don't actually need to make substantial changes that benefit people. They just need to be able to say that we're fighting the good fight and that we are fundraising and that you should send us $5 so that we can continue fighting the good fight. But anything that they can actually do to avoid actually implementing positive change and populist policies, they'll do. And right now, that's trying to go the podcast route. You have Pete Buttigieg guest starring on every podcast. You have Gavin Newsom starting his own podcast out in California that was based around, I think, just shitting on trans people. A great and wonderful representation for the Democratic Party. Again, these people make me fucking sick. Like, at least the Republicans are, yeah, they're hypocrites and idiots, but they're not trying to be this level of holier than thou and like talk down to you. And oh my God, this answer was absolutely horseshit. So I'm going to go through this step by step because I did not like that answer. Pete Buttigieg on Gaza, more than half of Senate Democrats just voted.
More than half of Senate Democrats just voted to oppose the sale of over $500 million worth of U.S. bombs and guns to Israel. Would you have voted to oppose sending those weapons?
I think we need to insist that if American taxpayer funding is going to weaponry that is going to Israel, that is not going to things that shock the conscience. And look, we see images every day that shock the conscience.
Thank you. I hope that's a little bit better.
Much of this is complicated. But what's not complicated is that if a child is starving because of a choice,
I appreciate it.
Made by
yeah, so just that first part there, I really like the non-committal answer. It's the same thing that AOC answered with.
Going to Israel, that is not going to things that shock the conscience.
Like it didn't change anything. Oh no, we'll do that there. We'll do that there. Hopefully that's
and. Look,
hopefully that's a little bit better.
We see images every day that shock the conscience.
So yeah, this non-committal. Thank you again. I appreciate it. This non-committal answer of, it's not a matter of we need to.
And look,
for sure, it's not a matter of we need to make sure that no money is going towards the weapons in Israel. We just need to make sure that no money is going towards weapons that are meant to kill and maim and absolutely destroy the lives that have been built in Gaza. We need to, as long as those weapons aren't being used to explode the people we pretend to care about, then it's fine. No, we do not need to be sending money to a genocidal state. End of story. There's no debate there that any opportunity that we have to be able to strip money and not send taxpayer dollars to support child murder that's going on every day, that's happening en masse, absolute catastrophic levels of genocide, likes of which I've never seen. We need to strip them of everything that we can if they're going to act this way. If if we'll get it down real simple. If I am an adult and I have two children that are next to each other and one of them has a hammer and starts hitting the one that doesn't have a hammer with the hammer, I take away the hammer. I don't give the child with a hammer a defensive hammer with pillows on it. I just get rid of the hammer. This is ridiculous. And the non-committal answer here is exactly the problem with the Democratic Party, exactly the problem that people have with the Democratic Party as well. Of you're not willing to stand up for the values that you should be, that you say that you hold. You're willing to hold the values of your corporate donors and maintaining liberal aesthetics and the advancement of capitalist interests. But when it comes to actually like defending the Palestinians, you're not even able to say that a genocide is happening. We stop sending weapons except, for example, submarines that aren't used to fight people in Gaza. Yeah, I mean, cutting them off is the only solution to stopping it. Taking Netanyahu out of power is the only, arresting him as a war criminal that he is the only way to stop this from continuing. I believe, was it Pete Buttigieg? They might say it in here as well. I think there was Pete asking like, okay, well, how do you foresee working with Netanyahu in the future? And the answer that he gave was not simply, well, we can't work with Netanyahu in the future. It was, well, we need to work with Netanyahu and other voices to make sure like things like this don't happen again. Okay, so you're fine with Netanyahu remaining in power? You're cool with that? The guy that's committed these atrocities, the war criminal that's paved the pathway here? That's wonderful. I love that you're willing to stand up for the the moral values that you claim you have over the conservatives, when you are willing to let people die and be slaughtered en masse to the same extent.
Weaponry that is going to Israel, that is not going to things that shock the conscience. And look, we see images every day that shock the conscience. So much of this is complicated, but what's not complicated is that if a child is starving because of a choice made by a government, that is unconscionable. And I think especially including voices who care about Israel, who believe in Israel's right to exist, who have stood with Israel in response to the unbelievable cruelty and terrorism of October 7th.
Okay, hang on. That was a lot of horseshit. So much of this is complicated. So much is complicated.
But what's not complicated.
So again, we have not only Pete Buttigieg not willing to say that say that he shouldn't have sent the money because that money would go towards killing Palestinians. Instead, he diverted from that and said, well, we shouldn't send money for weapons that will kill Palestinians. If they're going to be used in defense of Israel, that's a different story. We then go on to him when appealing to the more emotional side, bringing up a child starving. But even throughout all of this, at no point has he been willing to say that it's specifically Israel that is doing the starvation of the Palestinians. At no point has he gone on to say that is a genocide happening to the Palestinians, that Israel is specifically causing, and we are the direct funders of. Like, what's not complicated is that if a child is starving,
Is that if a child
what is it?
is starving because of a choice
made by a government.
That is unconscionable.
Okay, so if a child is starving because of a choice made by a government, there are children starving in Gaza. That was a choice that was enacted and made possible through the direct funding of U.S. dollars to Israel. You are a part of the U.S. government. You said it's unconscionable. So, so you're unconscionable? Are you? Would you classify yourself as that, or are you just sort of, loosely granulating towards the idea of maybe something that Israel is doing is being bad, while being able to maintain that you didn't actually say Israel is doing a genocide, you didn't actually say that Palestinians are being exploited and murdered and killed at a rate that is despicable, specifically at the hands of Netanyahu and his government and regime. Not able to admit any of that is unconscionable. But I'm glad we're able to say that some things are.
And I think especially including voices who care about Israel, who believe in Israel's right to exist.
It's important to both sides these things. I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this. When I was watching a video of when I was watching a video of a Palestinian man standing in line waiting for flour to simply pass away where he was standing due to starvation while waiting in line for food, I don't think you need to worry about the IDF soldiers who have to look at that happen. Like that, they didn't deal with it. I saw in the video that it was other Palestinians that pulled the man away and that got him out of line so that others could go and approach the food murder lines. Where the aid has been filled with drugs from Israel. They found pharmaceutical drugs in the aid that's been distributed. Not to mention the fact that when you go to these distribution sites, you're onslaughted just for showing up. Mass gun firings, mass murders happening, just for again trying to claim food. When again I see a man pass out in line or pass away in line waiting for that food, I don't care about Israel's feelings in that moment. I don't care about how we need to make sure that they have the weapons to defend themselves. I care about that person who just passed away.
To have stood with Israel in response to the unbelievable cruelty and terrorism of October 7th. I think there's a reason why so many of those voices are speaking up now too, because this is not just something that is on its face and in itself a moral catastrophe. It is also a catastrophe for Israel for the long run.
How do you think the next administration should?
All right, so you're able to say like some loose culpability towards Israel at the very end there, which is pretty exciting for you. I'm very proud of you. I think I'm very proud of you. You're a big boy. You look so sad. Oh my God, hang on. Look how sad Mayor Pete looks here. That's the face of a man who can't admit Israel is doing a genocide. That's wild. He looks so downtrodden. Oh, poor Mayor Pete. Poor guy. What did he just say? I got distracted.
For Israel for the long run.
Oh yeah, he's able to admit there's some culpability and some negative repercussions for Israel. There's some bad PR for them in the long run. There's some potential ramifications from, I don't know, ethnically cleansing an entire population of people, ethnically displacing an entire population of people. It might stir some drum circles up a little bit. It might upset the hacky sack rink. But
how do you think the next administration should handle our relationship with Israel?
Oh,
Do you think it
here's
should
this question,
change
yes.
based on what Netanyahu has done the last several years?
Yo, what's up? Absolutely, I love D&D. D&D is a wonderful game. I tried once playing first edition, and it took me about 12 minutes to want to unalive myself before I had to step away and go back to playing 5th edition. So I've only played 5th edition regularly, but Baldur's Gate 3, wonderful. Generally, my class, I go for Barbarian, go for Rogue, go for Monk. I like my heavy hitters, not too big on mage castings because I don't like ingredients. Player and DM. I do a little bit of both. I haven't DM'd in quite a long time. It's been a very long time since I DM'd last, but love DMing, love doing one-shots. I just moved to a new place, and I'm planning on starting up local one-shots for people to get started. Ooh, exciting. Would a Star Wars Evil D&D campaign maybe interest you to join? I actually once played a D&D campaign where everything that was sci-fi was real. I had created, and so in our party we had a Promethean, we had a Sith Lord, we had a bear bumblebee hybrid, we had what else was it? Was it a xenomorph? Anyway, all these different sci-fi we had a doctor. We had a doctor, but I just based off what the players wanted, coordinated it with classes in D&D, and figured it out from there, and matched things up as best I could. But Star Wars Evil D&D campaign, I think that sounds like a fantastic time. Head DM, I wish I could say that I have time for it right now. Unfortunately, I am launching my current business that I'm starting. I am a professional cheesemonger, and so I'm starting up a cheesemongering business. I'm doing this in my spare time, but once a week I'm going to be doing cheese classes on Twitch, and so I'm really going full in on that right now. I love the idea, though. I really want you to run with that. Just because I don't have the time for it, please don't think that doesn't mean it's not a good way to go. I think D&D Star Wars is a super fun idea. Any adaptation. Oh, thanks. I'm excited about it. Cheese is a cool industry. It's fun because you get to eat things all day long. But yeah, starting next Monday, I'm going to be doing the Cheese Weeb Book Club. But I'm a big One Piece fan. And so every week that a chapter comes out, I'm going to be doing a cheese class beforehand, and I'm going to be going through a couple of cheeses, talking about where they come from, talking about where they're made, how they're made, what animals they come from, the cheese process for cheese making, what like different geographic options or geographical places do to the overall flavor profile of cheese. Gouda's a great example. I love Gouda. Gouda's a wonderful cheese. So Gouda, fun fact, as long as we're talking about cheese, and I'm here. We'll take a break from Pete. Let's get Pete out of here for a second. Fuck that guy. I hate Pete Buttigieg, but I love cheese. So Gouda is specifically made in Holland. You'll sometimes hear people respond with Gouda. There's so many names to cheese. Yeah, there's a lot. Specifically, French has like 130 different specific cheeses that they have name protection rights to that have to be made in those specific places. And then even outside of those, they have thousands and thousands of just locally made things. There is a cheese Germany is known for. I actually know of one cheese that is made in Germany, finished in France, that is called, Tome à Fleur. Hang on, let me get up my paint real quick. Paint. There's a cheese in Germany called Tome à Fleur. Tome à Fleur is a wonderful little cheese. It is tome that is encrusted in flower petals. It has 6 different types of flower petals on it that is aged under. Specifically, you have strawberry blossoms. You have it's quite tasty. You have strawberry blossoms. You have rose petals. You have a really fun one that's called green fenugreek, which is like a maple and curry flavored flower petal, but the entire cheese tastes like a flowery, maple, caramelly, really brothy kind of flavor. Really good for melting. But that's a really good German cheese. But there is another, what was the other question? Gouda. Gouda is a fun cheese as well. So Gouda, a lot of the times, especially like your reserve Goudas, tend to be a little bit more on the sweeter side. A big part of the reason for that is that Gouda, or as more traditionally, it would be Gouda. I never say that because I'm in America, and colloquially, everybody just calls it Gouda here. I will say I do get annoyed when I'm speaking to an American and I say, okay, so a Gouda like this one, and they say, don't you mean Gouda? I don't mind if somebody that has the, it's crazy good. I know there's a shop in Atlanta that stocks some. I know there's a shop in Nashville and Memphis that stock it. I know there's a shop in Syracuse, New York, as well as New York that stocks it. But you can generally find it, I think, just online through either Murray's or what have you. Generally, I always recommend, if you can, supporting Saxelby's Cheesemongers. They're a famous cheesery or fromagerie in New York. But they're, as far as I know, generally speaking, some of the best people as far as like youth development in the cheese industry, as far as like scholarship opportunities for youth in the cheese industry. So whenever possible, I always recommend buying Saxelby. They're, if you're in New York, located in Chelsea Market. And it's a lovely place to go and visit. But Gouda is, sorry, cheese does have that effect. Gouda is specifically made with, typically it has a wax rind on it. What a wax rind does compared to other rinds is it allows them, or it keeps the moisture inside of the cheese. If you have a natural rind, there's a lot more airflow that's able to get out of the cheese, and that, or rather, there's a lot more moisture that's able to get through the cheese as airflow crosses over the cheese. Airflow acts as friction, and any kind of friction is going to dry out any kind of moisture in a product. And so airflow acting as that friction dries it out. If you have a wax rind, that does a much better job towards protecting that cheese than a natural rind does. So that's why Goudas a lot of the time have that more waxy rind on the outside that you don't really eat. You just sort of cut through, and it's difficult. You could peel that off. Another thing specifically about Gouda is that when you age cheese, every flavor that you have when you start the cheese aging process is going to be accentuated and become more powerful as that cheese ages. So with Gouda, a person or a part of the project or part of the process for Gouda is specifically you heat up the curd. So that way you're able to allow the proteins inside of the milk curd to caramelize to a certain amount. And because those sugar crystals caramelize inside of the cheese, as that cheese ages and as it gets more and more intense, those caramel flavors get more and more pronounced. So if you ever have like a reserve Gouda, which if you're half Dutch and love Gouda, I'm sure that's what you're probably thinking of. If you have a reserve Gouda, you have that sort of like more like fudgy, caramelly flavor. more dense texture, versus like a younger Gouda might have a little bit more of a toffee flavor to it. It might not be as strong, might not be as dense, has a little bit more pliability to it, maybe not as salty either, but still has like, again, like a light caramel, again, more maybe toffee flavor on the lighter side versus the older side. There's a little bit more of that stronger, more robust, strong, like porty, port as in with a P, port flavor. I need to practice my typing on Paint. Wish passionate about some. Thank you. It's cheese is a fun hobby. A fun job, I should say. I got lucky in finding it. I think everyone has that passion out there. It's just a matter of what you're able to find and what you're able to try. We've all got our things. We've all got our interests and niches. I just think it's generally a matter of people not having the opportunity to explore all the things that we want to, either due to time restrictions or financial restrictions, or oftentimes also just a fear of failure. I can speak personally to that one. I've always wanted to actually get involved in streaming, always wanted to be a YouTube content creator, like when I was growing up. I saw that as like the most like self-determining pathway towards like independence from capitalism, and yet due to my own fear of getting started, doing other things, as well as not knowing exactly how to invest in things, as well as what to invest in money-wise, all of these things kept me from actually getting involved and actually trying to do it. Everything changed for me once I personally read One Piece, and had a little bit of I guess I call it a little bit more of a belief and bravery in myself. But for me, that's One Piece, and that's where I get that from, and I get some passion from cheese. But I'm sure there's something out there that you are passionate about, maybe you haven't found yet. I always recommend trying out a new hobby. I for one, I don't like it. I had never tried pottery making until not too long ago. I don't like it, but I can certainly see a world in which somebody finds that they have the biggest passion in the world for pottery painting, but also or pottery making, but also it's again like a cost prohibitive thing, because it's like doing something like pottery is so at this point, doing something like pottery or something creative is so mass produced. It's much easier to go to IKEA and get your ceramic pots that are all cute and aesthetic and have been designed in that way, as opposed to learning to make it yourself, in which you also have to go through the process of supporting an artist who's trying to do it. So for example, like if you want to learn how to make pottery, you'll have to go to a space where you can do that. And usually there's an artist there that's teaching classes that you can do. But oftentimes those classes can be cost prohibitive. And oftentimes those classes can be an obstacle for you partaking in it, because there's all kinds of other things like social pressures. There's all kinds of other things like lack of access towards getting to that place, towards being able to leave your house. And so actually focusing on being able to work or practice and trying out these things, I think can definitely offer some great exposure and a great experimentation of finding your passions. But it's tough finding the thing you like. It's tough finding the thing that you get excited about. Germany, I know far right's been getting more and more lively. And the problem with being a leftist online, and so I've been on the left for a while now. I started watching leftist content about the time Trump first took over in 2016, and remember back in 2017 listening to content creators talking about how this effect was going to be seen in other places. America has a tendency to spit out whatever we create, and it has an ability to go to other places and influence those places. And now, like you're saying, like you mentioned, we have Elon Musk, who's been empowered and emboldened by the American doctrine and the American machine, who's able to call into a far-right Nazi party in Germany and say, "Hello, everybody, how are we doing, my Reddit friends?" And, shoot the shit with them and tell them that they're doing great work and that they need to get they need to keep it up. That's what the right has. The right has the richest, most powerful man in the world calling in personally on a big screen to say, hello, hi, hello, let me give you... Like, they talk about the left being funded by George Soros. There's no funding of the left. Like, I'm just getting started, of course, and I don't have a big following by any means, but, like, when you look at the difference in right-wing popularity online versus left-wing popularity online, a lot of that's going to be a matter of a lot of these right-wing platforms have a huge amount of funding. You know, you have like PragerU, you have all these right-wing think tanks, you have right-wing billionaires, and billionaires in general who like aesthetically will sure say that they care about gay and trans people, and like they'll aesthetically, you know, build the library for the college, but they're still lobbying and giving money to those that would take rights away from anybody who's not a billionaire. Yeah, no, the less of a desire to buy Teslas is incredible. That one brings me a lot of joy. I think it's funny watching people scurry to their cars that own Teslas, that are shamed that they own or rather know that they might be shamed in public for owning a Tesla. Like there's a certain caliber of people. There's different Tesla owners. I remember my boss always being really my old boss being really apologetic towards Tesla owners that specifically towards Tesla owners that didn't, in his words, didn't know yet about Elon Musk, which as far as I'm concerned, he's been on his like technocratic end of civilization, turn the people into machines train since like I think his PayPal days of 2008. And whenever I say that to my boss of like, oh well, no, people know who Elon Musk is, his response is, no, they're not as tuned in as you are to some of these things. You know, the average person doesn't know of what Elon Musk thinks, and it's like you're right, that's bullshit. Everybody knows what Elon Musk thinks. It's just that they're fine with it. They just don't mind the fact that he has those opinions and says those things. In fact, I would go so far as to, a lot of them encourage him to say those things. But you have different calibers of Tesla owners, and there's that tier that my boss mentioned of those who own Teslas and are embarrassed about the fact that they own Teslas, but they bought one before they knew Elon Musk was a bad person, and they just don't know what to do now. To which my response is, okay, I've already seen those viral bumper stickers that say, I bought this before I knew. If you feel that way, put that on your car. Go ahead and mark yourself as a good one if that's what you want to do. But like, if you're going to get into a Tesla this day and age, I'm going to judge you harshly for it. Like there's no room for benefiting and keeping technology from that genocidal maniac. Like, if you're into eugenics, we don't support your products. You know, I don't think it's that complicated. But back to the George Soros funding the left. You know, we talk like you have the actual funding of the right that happens. You have PragerU, you have right-wing think tanks, you get nepotism and people like Steven Crowder and Tim Pool. There's I just moved to a new town. There's like 6 Tim Pool billboards spread across town. Nobody knows who put them up. I know somebody that tried to find who put them up. We couldn't figure out who put them up. Like there's no telling, unless it's just a private individual that cares about Tim Pool enough to put up posters of him in like, I don't know, one of the top in like 100 to 180 biggest cities in the US. Like there's bigger places you could put those billboards. And yet, like, you have a private individual who's actively promoting him somewhere in town. Like, that doesn't happen with leftist content creators. Also, with far-right content creators, you also get the benefit of the algorithm naturally likes you, because the algorithm is naturally built towards those that induce rage, induce panic, induce violence, produce bait in general. You know, I look at this as an opportunity, being on Twitch, to create a powerful and force of good to act as another source of pressure to liberate and help the general populace as much as possible. Whereas, you know, the Tim Pools, the Steven Crowders, the Patrick Bet David podcasts of the world see that as an opportunity to enrich themselves, as an opportunity to make a buck, as an opportunity to grow their brand. Like I'm trying to do the same things, but I think there's a different hope behind it. I like to think so anyway. Maybe I'm wrong and just grandstanding myself, but as long as I'm here, I think we are better off talking about far left and leftist policies that actually benefit people's lives, as opposed to fear-mongering about immigrants that have done nothing to you and only benefit us having them around because our country naturally exploits them. I would love for them to not be exploited. You protect the ways in which not you, but like the conservatives protect the way in which they are exploited. Conservative Petey boy here, Pete Buttigieg, who had quite a bit to say.
Based on what Netanyahu has done the last several years?
Well,
hang on.
Do you think it should change based on what Netanyahu has done the last several years?
Well, certainly Netanyahu can't be the only voice or the only compass for what should happen in the U.S.-Israel relationship. And, no matter how strongly, or especially because of how strongly you might believe in Israel's right to exist and defend itself, you don't have to make excuses for the choices that Netanyahu is making, especially because they are often made not only in the name of the Israeli people, but in the name of a U.S. alliance. I think that we, as Israel's strongest ally and friend, you put your arm around your friend when there's something like this going on and talk about what we're prepared to do together.
So my takeaway from that is, okay, yeah, so what do we need to do differently, and how do we need to address the Netanyahu of the room? Well, we need to put our arm around him and sing Kumbaya. We need to embrace our friend because he's crashing out right now. He's treating this like it needs to be group therapy or an intervention. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Put your arm around your friend when there's something like this going on.
Like when when your friend goes through a bad breakup, and they need to be comforted, and like, sure, they might have been like the one that like caused the breakup, or rather like they broke up with the other person, but like they're sad about it and they're your friend. So you want to be there for them and not like, I don't know, you don't want to ask them why they broke up with them, because that would be an invasion of privacy. They're entitled to break up with them. They're entitled to defend themselves. We just need to be there to support them in whatever fashion that shows. Whatever fashion that shows.
Talk about what we're prepared to do together, and it certainly cannot be what we see right now from this administration and this president talking about beachfront property in Gaza before he's prepared to talk about human suffering in Gaza.
Do you think?
And yet you're not willing to call it a genocide in Gaza. You're willing. It's fucking insane. I've got to be honest with you. It's absolutely insanity to me that again that one of the leaders of our party, and I say leaders generally in terms of name recognition, in terms of like popularity, in terms of like, again, like corporate liberal aesthetic and corporate Democrat side of things, like the way that you're able to stand here and talk and shame the Trump administration for talking about beachfront property and like the ethnic cleansing that they're doing, and in the same breath say that we need to not get rid of the perpetrator of this genocide that's done the genocide. We don't need to get them out of power. In fact, we should probably keep them in power, get some other people around them maybe, but then we should all do a group hug and work through these tough emotions together. And through this effort, we can still continue to kill the Palestinians. Like, what is the goal? Because it's clearly not to stop the killing of the Palestinians.
Before he's prepared to talk about human suffering in Gaza.
Do you think it's time to recognize a Palestinian state?
I think that's a profound question that arouses a lot of the biggest problems that have happened with Israel's survival, Israel's right to survival in the diplomatic scene. And many of the people who have taken that step historically have done so for different reasons than what we see happening with European countries. I think we need to step back and we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that there is a real two-state solution and that no one, not even the likes of Netanyahu, can veto the international community's commitment to a two-state solution where you have Palestinians and Israelis living with safety, with security, with rights. I believe that can happen.
So go fuck yourself. the consistent demand, or rather the consistent what is the word I'm looking for? Advancement, the specific endorsement for a two-state solution, in my mind is crazy as an answer, considering like the only way we make sure that a two-state solution can occur is by maintaining Israel as an ethno-state and ensuring the ethnic displacement of anybody that gets in the way of that ethnic state. Maintaining a majority Jewish population within the state of Israel.
Commitment
This is
to
just
a two-state solution where you have
like
Palestinians and Israelis live.
The problem with the two-state solution is that it's not Israel's land. Like it's the Palestinians' land that they are now being forced out of in order to secure that two-state solution. Like if there is a two-state solution, that means that there is an other. There is still an other group. They've been working towards this two-state solution for years now, and that's just worked towards building the biggest open-air prison concentration camp in existence in the world today. That's what has led us here so far, is maintaining, again, this liberal aesthetic around Israel, when in fact the only solution is disarming Israel. Israel is going to keep on doing what they've been doing. It's a consistent. It's the only consistent thing that happens, aside from like capital exploiting the working class, and like everybody being subjected to the patriarchy. Those are the only other two exceptions.
Living with safety, with security, with rights. I believe that can happen, but we have to actually show some commitment to it.
More than half of Senate Democrats just voted to.
That makes me really sick. That makes me really sick. It's the, again, same sort of a pussy-footed, half-assed response that Americans were given time and time again from the Kamala campaign, from the Biden campaign, from the both administrations, as we were just waiting for ongoing investigations, and we just had to wait and see what was actually going on in the ground. And as Israel just had to make sure that they were protected from Hamas, it's just been it's just been allowed to continue further and further. And at no point has any Democratic leader really tried to do anything to put an end to it, because at the end of the day, they're all in line when it comes to Israel. The political system in the U.S., as a political system, I generally believe in a more democratic system. Voting and is always better, but I generally would say my issue and beef is more so with capitalism. That's where I see most issues stemming and coming from. Capitalism doesn't work without the exploitation of others, and with any system built on exploitation, there's always going to be a disenfranchised people, and if you're going to have a disenfranchised people, you're always going to have an othering of some kind. If not a natural othering, then a othering that is enforced by a state and or power system or power structure. So like I'm just whatever political system gets us to like class abolishment and like and the removal of billionaires, I'm almost okay for. Obviously, like I'm not going to be cool with fascism taking over or authoritarianism starting up tomorrow. But generally speaking, I'm a communist. I believe in community communism, and so specifically when looking at how things function, how things should work, it goes down to, you have a group of people that make up the members of the community, and they vote for what's best based off that community. As simple of a democracy as you can get would be my preferred option. As far as like the extent of what that state or what the extent of what that community looks like, that's dependent on where we are. That depends on specific infrastructure. That depends on specific like geographical features. Like I don't think if there's a mountain dividing two communities and they're on opposite sides of each other and don't have the same way, or they don't have an easy way to get goods from one side of the mountain they don't have a tunnel for the mountain yet. I don't think it's smart for one community to make the decision for both sides of the mountain. They can both have their communities that make decisions for each other, but overall, like, this would require the removal of a state as a whole. With a state, it doesn't work in that same way, or rather without that same sort of principled state. But as far as political systems, specifically like getting into like Democratic, Republican, and the system as such, again, I think it's just all a tool of capitalism. Our system is maintained because it enriches those that are at the top, and they're able to steal from those who are at the bottom. Why would those at the top change anything when they're already the ones in power? Those at the bottom simply have to fight to be able to make what changes they can and are able to. I don't see it being a power vacuum because, again, we would have councils that would, like if somebody comes in and says, like, I'm taking over the town, other members of the community say, no, that's stupid. We're not going to allow that. And things are put to a vote. But in terms of like the power vacuum conversation, I feel like usually that comes from like a place of like I feel like that usually comes from a place of people being like greedy, and I don't think that greed comes inherent. Like, I fully agree, like, if there's a power vacuum, you're going to have somebody that's going to say like, oh, there's a place in which there's power over there. If I had that power, I would better enrich myself, and that would be better for me in the long. Like, I think it comes from that place of greed. But I think if we are living in a different society, and of course, if we didn't have a state and we lived in this sort of, my community communism world that I built here, then everyone has their needs met. I don't think greed functions in the same way when we all have what we need. Like if in the world of which like global slavery ends tomorrow, but the world no longer has iPhones, I make that deal. Like, you have people that would make an argument, the iPhones provide a great service. The iPhones are a great tool and a great benefit for us. But overall, that doesn't outweigh the cost of human lives that comes along with the iPhones. I think this greed comes from capital. Lack of resources. We don't have a lack of resources. When it comes to food, we only actually use about 30% of the food that's produced. I'm sure at some point you've heard about like the food land dumps, but food that isn't pretty enough to go on, especially here in America, food that isn't good enough to go on the grocery store shelves just gets put to the side. Instead, that stuff gets thrown out because it's not pretty enough to sell. Why would we use it? We can't. If we were to use it and not sell it, that's an opportunity in which we are not making money, because then somebody is having their needs met in a way that they're not paying for it. Now, if they don't have their needs met and they're not paying for it, that's fine. That's a-okay. But the capital portion is where this desire from monetary gain comes from, at least when it comes to like the food problem I mentioned. Like, we have the food, we just don't use the food. There's tons and tons and tons. There's truckloads and truckloads, thousands of tons of food outside of Gaza right now. Israel just won't let them in. It's a matter of having access and those who would keep you from that access. So again, like a power vacuum, again, I think comes from more so a place of comes from a place of greed that is enabled by capitalism. Like if you take somebody and you put them in a forest, you take Tarzan, and you take him out of society, and he's raised in a situation where he doesn't know capitalism, then I wouldn't call them greedy because they are going after, or I wouldn't call them having a greedy for going after food in that way, or going after something without any sort of like moral foundation, because they are raised in nature. There's no like, they don't have anything to them in terms of like moral compass living with other humans. And I mean, like, I think that's why. So, like, here in America, I was talking earlier about there was a lot of fear mongering about Project 2025 leading up to this election. That was like the main Democratic talking point. I don't think that's greed. I think that's just survival. But I think my point is that we have the means of survival. Oh yeah, no, fair, same. We have the means of survival. It's just that those greedy people, are keeping the means from us. Like when we talk about like the homeless population, there's 800,000 homeless in the U.S. We have the means to house them because we have 16 million empty vacant units that are owned by private owners that are vacant. We know they're vacant because we have a census. They're just being held there because they're future investment opportunities. They're because of the way that housing is commodified and the way that housing is made to put you into slavery, debt slavery to pay off that house, then it's I think going to be ingrained not just of animals, or not in animals, but rather the system. Like I don't think animals greedy because it wants food. I think it just is looking for survival. A lion, for example, a lion or a lioness, I should say, after a lioness brings down an antelope, a lioness will a lioness will eat their entire fill, and then they'll stop. Now that lioness will have scavengers like hyenas that are running around them the entire time that they're eating, waiting for the moment of them to leave so that they can go over and finish whatever scraps that's left for them. But the lioness doesn't grab the remains and take them back to the den. Once the lion gets its fill, the lion instead leaves the remains, and the hyenas come over and eat that, because the lion's not greedy. It's not trying to stock up on. It's not trying to make sure that it can save nutrients for later, because it's just getting its fill to the caloric point it needs until its next meal. Oh, sure. No, I mean, I don't really like talking. It can always get greedy again. History tends to repeat itself. I thought it would take a lot longer for us to get to a genocide again on like the world stage of the level of like awareness of World War II, and still allow it to happen in this way. But it took less time than I thought it would. I guess the internet did that. No, I don't really like talking about like animals when we talk about these things a lot, because like my personal thought is like everything that we've done as people has been to get further away from nature, like our base nature, if you will. But like it's not a great talking point specifically for this conversation, but I was thinking the other day specifically about like conservatives maintaining their conservative values, and every single time I hear that, my first response, because I live in the South, and in the summertime here it gets to be 115 degrees outside some days, my first response was, well, I mean, I think if you really cared about conservative values, you would be maintaining a lack of air conditioning. Like what year? No, I'm sorry, my America is showing. No, what is that? 50? No, that would be like 48 degrees Celsius. I'm loosely okay with my Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. I will say, because of the cheese training, I'm much better on my pounds to grams. I can do grams like nobody's business. But the yeah, I don't typically like the animal thing because like we've been trying to get away from 46 degrees. Oh, fucking speaking of the world being on fire, Turkey hit 120 something degrees. It was 51 or 50.6 degrees Celsius. What the fuck do you do about that? And it's only getting worse every year. Like the world's on fire, and there's nothing we can do about that. I actually was at a cheese event not too long ago, and I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about specifically goats and sheep have a very limited. It's not real. Goats and sheep have a very limited specific window in which they produce milk after they're pregnant. After they give birth. It's only for sheep. It's about like 3 to 4 months out of the year. For goats, it's about like 2 to 3.5 months out of the year that they can produce milk. Typically, now there are places that specifically keep their goats indoors all day long. That way, they control the temperature and they control the lighting, so that way they can outfit exactly when the goats are producing milk, so they can maintain stock year-long round. That's not my favorite practice. We were talking instead about more like free grazing goats, and specifically we're talking about goats in Switzerland. And they were telling me that the goats in Switzerland, over the past 2 years, they have started their cheese. They've started their pasture process a total of 8 days earlier. So the first year they did it 6 years earlier, or I'm sorry, the first year they did it 6 days earlier. The next year they did it 8 days earlier than when they would normally take the goats back out into the mountains to go and start grazing again to start the cheese making process. They started it earlier in the year because of the temperature change. The goats were getting into the system where they were producing milk, so they had to get them to where they could actually get a cheese production ready at an earlier point. And so, like, you know, we talk about like conservatives love talking about like getting back to, you know, like maintaining conservative values and maintaining a belief in like true things and not just believing science because a scientist told you that. I don't need science to tell me that. The goats told me that. I don't need to listen to the scientists that you don't believe. I have goats on my side. Do you want to argue with a goat? I can tell you it's not fun arguing with a goat. Anyway. I got really pissed about this Pete Buttigieg thing. I just know I'm going to start seeing pretty soon as he starts coming out with more sound bites. I'm going to be seeing more liberal adjacent people start putting like still images with his quote on it, and it's saying things along the lines of like, you know, yes, we care about our trans allies, but we also care about our TERFs, like some shit like that. AFD told in an interview that we should talk to the sun. We should talk to the sun to shine less. Yeah, that's a good idea. I remember I used to work at an outdoor museum, again in Georgia, where in the summertime it usually got to like 115 degrees or so, 110 degrees, and we were specifically a living history museum, and so we worked in historic buildings that did not have air conditioning. I will say I specifically had a job there that I worked in a building that did have air conditioning. Because I would not do that as a job because I am naturally lazy and don't like getting hot. But when we were there, we would have people all the time complain to us about it being as hot as it was. And my response was, I don't really know how to help you with that. We're in Georgia, and these are historical homes that people can't change. Oh, people shouldn't be working at these temperatures. No, it's impossible. Like the fact the people die every year that work for Amazon, that work for USPS, UPS, you know, delivery drivers in general, construction workers. Oh my God, being I worked in an outdoor theater. I'm sorry, an outdoor museum. I've also worked in an outdoor theater, and that was hell too. It was super fucking hot, and I remember going through a case of water in a 36-hour period of working for I think 12 hours just because of how hot it was. There was one point I was working in a U-Haul. We were packing it up with a bunch of stuff and it had been baking in the Georgia sun. And I was wearing a tank top. And so my shoulder blades were exposed. And I was standing on something, trying to adjust something and shove it into the van. And as I'm standing on the stuff, my shoulder blade accidentally touches the roof of the van. And I heard a sizzle. And when I pulled down, I left a layer of skin on the roof of the van. Like, it was so hot that my skin melted to the roof of the truck. People shouldn't be working in these temperatures. And it's even more upsetting knowing that these temperatures are only going to continue getting worse. And climate change is only going to, and devastating climate events are only going to continue getting worse as these happen. And who is it that's going to pay the price of this? It's going to be the working class. It's going to be those who are struck by poverty. You know, here in the U.S., I don't know about Germany. Here in the U.S., we're seeing a lot of data centers being put up right now. Would I like to leave America? I would. Tangibly, yes. Like, in I left for once. I've gone to France. And I was amazed at not only how impressed I was with a much stronger sense of partially because of cheese. That was definitely a big reason for the trip. It was also just exposure. I was able to go with some family. It was an incredible time. I got to try a lot of cheese, but I was just so impressed with there was such a stronger foundation for worker solidarity, for class consciousness. Everyone I talked to, while everyone I talked to was slightly mean to me, I felt it was not because of me being poor, but rather me being American, and I can live with that. Here in America, they hate you because you're poor. And that's a more annoying thing for me personally. But yeah, I was really impressed with how safe I felt as well. Oh, I fully believe that. I would make fun of it all the time. From my understanding, every European that's alive does and should. It should be put down as often as it can. I've often held the belief that people don't get funny without being bullied, and I think that being bullied is an instrumental part of growing up. If you're really pretty growing up, are you really going to be that funny? You had pretty to run on, and so I'm always wary of anybody who's not being put down in that way. America should be put down as often as they can. Punch up. America wants to call itself the best country in the world. Fine. Every other country gets to talk shit about them. That's the way that works. But yeah, I was super impressed with again, not only was I impressed with the class consciousness, I was super impressed with the cheese, of course. I was also super impressed with how safe I felt being around the police in general compared to being here. There were so many cops that I saw that were, and I'll probably get the actual office or notation or department that they work in wrong, but there were a lot of either military members or what seemed to be heavily armed police that had assault rifles, or at least big-looking guns to an uneducated gun guy like myself, whether they were single fire or not. But they had intimidating-looking guns. But at least the people that I saw. Yeah, that's fair. At least the people that I saw, though, the cops, sure, they had guns on them, but they were nice. You walked by, they smiled, they waved. Maybe that's not super consistent. That might just be my own anecdotal experience. But I was down in my this town I just moved to. I was walking around downtown where every Saturday there's a morning market. And again, morning market, Saturday afternoon, peaceful morning, as people are laughing, joking, shopkeepers are setting their stalls up, and I see a group of 3 cops, and each one of them is, of course, packed to the brim with weapons, and 2 of them are laughing, talking to each other, and one of them is just staring me down as I'm walking by. I don't know. Maybe he could smell the communist in me, and wasn't happy about that. But the other people that I talked to had the same experience from the same cop. And I'm like, if you're going to be downtown in the Sunday market, don't you generally want to have like nice people there that are gonna like treat you well and like be good faces for your system? Like, yeah, I mean, like, every police force is always going to have problems. I have no faith in generally any system that maintains power, especially power that involves the incarceration of others. But you know, here in America, it's just taken up to such a different level when it comes to the industrialized prison system, when it comes to the prison system in general, when it comes to the mistreatment of others. But yeah, no, I don't. I completely feel unsafe around police in America, and it didn't used to be that way. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't have that problem, but when I remember even I used to be the manager of a bowling alley. Really terrible job, really awful job. But when I worked there were times I had to call the cops on people, and I remember there. Even in those situations, not only did I have fear because I was an empathetic person, I never like calling, hopefully I am. I claim to be. But I always hated calling the cops on anybody because, you know, I'm always afraid of what the cops are going to do when they get there. So I, as a manager of the bowling alley, not only had to try to handle situations to the safety of all customers, to the safety of all of my employees, to the safety of myself, as well as to the safety of those who are causing whatever situation is happening. Like I've had to deal with knife fights before in the bowling alley over actual bowling scores. And when I call the police, I have to think about like the severity of the situation. I have to think about who I am calling the police on. Am I calling the police on a white person or am I calling the police on a black person? Because those can be two very different experiences. I also, aside from all of those worries that I have, also just don't feel safe around police. And again, this was something that I noticed when I was working as a manager of the bowling alley, and this might just be a matter of, that was when I got into college, and so that was around pretty soon around the time Trump was being elected the first time, and so I was becoming more aware of leftist policies and like becoming more aware of misdeeds of police forces in the past and mistreatments of others at the hands of police forces in the past. And so maybe that's where a lot of that stemmed from. But I did notice that upon being a manager and having to call them and having to interact with them, that just dealing with them, I didn't feel safe or comfortable. And I remember specifically talking to a police officer when I was in Colmar over in France. They were as nice as could be. I talked to a cop in Strasbourg in Switzerland because I was there for the Christmas market, the opening day, or I think it was the day after the opening day, but the opening day for the Christmas markets, which were beautiful, wonderful. Again, I was in a market setting and I saw a police officer and I saw them. They seemed nice. I said hi. We chatted for a couple minutes because they were friendly and I walked away. As opposed to here, I went to a market on a Saturday morning, which is filled with families and market vendors and good vibes and music and happy times. And as I'm walking through, there's just a police officer. Mean mugging me the entire time I'm walking by. Those are vastly different experiences. And it comes from just, again, like a place of over militarization of the police force. Most police departments in the U.S. get their training from the IDF, who's consistently used dehumanizing tactics in order to harm as many people as possible in their enforcement practices, like the incentive policies behind like pulling people over. In the U.S., I'm not sure exactly how it works in Germany, but you have like ticket quotas for cops that have to get reprimanded if they don't write so many tickets a month. So there's a actual cost and benefit incentive to pull people over, which gives them incentive to pull people over, which gives them the opportunity to arrest somebody because they rolled down the window and I just smelled marijuana. They rolled down the window and it looked like they had a gun on them, so I had to shoot them for my own safety. Like shit like that happens here every single day, and it comes from an over militarization of police. It comes from a lack of standards that go into the police departments that, generally speaking, people or communities aren't able to enforce because cop unions have so much power over the local communities and local states. Yeah, I think racial profiling is going to be happening everywhere. Now, you might be able to shed some more light for me. Here, it's a lot of racial profiling everywhere. In Germany, from my understanding, a lot of that's more based towards Muslim, as specifically like black or Hispanic, but more towards just Muslim or anybody Middle Eastern over in Germany, but just xenophobia in general. But yeah, there's specific cost incentives. That's what I thought. It's the same tactics used, but it's simply a different monster that they're using the tactics on. It's all dehumanizing tactics in order to get them to a point that you can treat them like they aren't human. And once you get to that point, you can do whatever you want. The people are used to it. Who's going to stop you? Or it's easier to ask for it's easier to apologize and ask for forgiveness, as I think the saying people love saying when they're being problematic, when they don't like checking for consent. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with police in the U.S. There's a really good study called the Veil of Darkness study that was done. I think it was Stanford. Let me double check that. Darkness. Yeah, it was a Stanford report. But the Stanford report did a study, the Veil of Darkness study, that black drivers get pulled over by police less at night when their race is obscured by veil of darkness. So what they specifically did in this study was they looked at specifically the same. Is it longitudinal or latitudinal? Horizontal range, longitude, I think. Longitudinal range across the U.S. They looked at one specific set of range, so that way the sun would be in about the same position all across that perspective, all across that area. So they looked at comparable cities within that range that all held similar populations in terms of demographics, in terms of all these different metrics that they use, and what they found through doing analyzing 95 million traffic stop records was across all these different agencies, was that you were 5 times more likely to be pulled over during the day if you were black versus at night if you were black, because during the day the cops can see who's driving the car, at night the cops can't tell who's driving the car. So 5 is crazy. Yeah, 5 times more likely to be pulled over. And again, Germany, I think it's 2 times. Yeah. And I think, oh yeah, I mean, you're always, especially, in situations where you have individuals like this, again, that enforce these systems of power, especially in places where, like, these distinctions and differences between people are left to are exploited to cause divisions. You're going to have individuals that have their own internal biases and their own problems with other peoples and other races, unfortunately, and like that's something that you have to deal with as it pops up. But like when you talk about 2 times more likely, when you talk about 5 times more likely, like that. We got to throw the whole thing away. Like, how do you fix this? You have to deal with every single police officer. Like dealing with it goes back to the argument of like, well, there's the greatest country in history. Hey, we are the greatest country in history. We've got the greatest incarceration rate. We've got the greatest rearrest rate. We've got the greatest mortality infant rate of any developed country in the world. We're losing rights for gay, queer women every single day. We're popping off. As Trump would put it, we're winning. We're gonna win so big. We're gonna win big. But yeah, I mean, like, this is just one example of, like, all of the systems in place against just black people in the country that make it substantially harder for them compared to anybody else. Did you see Scotland? Scotland roasting Trump. Scotland roasts Trump on visit. They were doing some fun stuff. I heard. I don't know if it's true or not. While Trump golfs in Scotland, protesters mock him. I saw a couple of good signs. No, that didn't have any pictures. Show me pictures. I don't want to read. Trump not welcome. Classic. I did hear at one point, though, that he, upon getting to Scotland, they canceled school.
This weekend, Donald.
Nope. Go away, Brian. I didn't know that was you. Yeah, I saw a lot of signs about them making fun of. They're probably suppressing it. I'll find it later and talk about it another time if I do. But there was talk about Scotland canceling schools because they were worried about the safety of their young girls with Trump coming into the country. Might have just been a joke. Might have happened. I read it on Twitter, so that means it must be true, right? But yeah, Scotland had some really good signs making fun of Trump. Probably was a joke. I'm about to say, looking for it now, I can't find an article, so we're going to assume it was a joke, but I still think a lot of what they're doing now is just a distraction from the Epstein stuff, but a good one. Anyway, we finished up Pete Buttigieg, and I've been streaming for 3 hours, and it's 4 o'clock. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. So I want to thank everybody so much for joining in today. Thank you so much for everybody who came in and hung out. I appreciate it. I can't wait to spend more time on Twitch and talking about cheese and talking about hopefully good politics, but talking about ways in which we can help others and make the world better and work towards adding pressure towards Democrats that want to pussyfoot around about fascism taking over and holding them accountable. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll probably be streaming in tomorrow and then next Monday, or probably tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday I'll be doing my first book club with the cheese class. So if you're interested in a cheese class, come and stop on by. Cheese class, first one on Monday. I'm going to be doing that around noon, and it'll be on YouTube later. But everybody be safe. Everybody stay safe and drink water. It's hot out there. Bye. Oh wait, I gotta do this right. Thank you. Yay! Happy stream. Happy times. Good job, everybody. We did it.